Happy Friday Eve. Thank you for watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Right across from me is super producer Carlene Bragg.
Hi.
We're almost there.
It's Thursday.
It's Thursday. We're almost there, Carlene.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. I said we're almost there on Monday, too.
You did.
So.
You say it every day.
But we are.
We are.
We truly
Today,
are that
actually,
much.
it means it.
And we both did like a collective sigh. Yep. Just to, it's kind of like a breathe out. It's just, sometimes you just need to do some nice breathing.
We need to breathe.
We need to breathe. It's okay to breathe.
It's okay.
We have to because it's a busy show. We
Yep.
have a lot going on this afternoon, a lot to get to. I don't want to waste any time. Let's start here. We'll start home. Yep. So we got a new report out from NOAA, basically giving us an outlook on hurricane season. So, of course, we have meteorologist Brittany Van Boer. He's here to break it all down. So Brittany, break this down. So what did you learn from this report?
Well, the biggest thing that we learned is that the National Hurricane Center, or NOAA, it's the same entity. So I think it's important to remember that those can be interchangeable. Has the same idea as Colorado State University and NC State, which are the two other kind of organizations that put out hurricane forecasts, which is that we will most likely have an above average season. Before we get into the numbers, I do want everyone to remember that it only takes one storm to make a bad season. 1992 is the quintessential example of this. Hurricane Andrew hit Miami as a Category 5, strongest storm to hit the state of Florida up to that point, at least in record keeping. And there was only 7 storms that whole season. 7 storms, and you got Hurricane Andrew. So it is just a reminder that you could have 50 storms in the Atlantic Basin if none of them hit the United States, and that's a good season for us versus, again, 7 storms, and you have one of them be a Category 5. So let's get into the numbers. Above average season, what does this mean? 60% chance that we'll see an above normal season, largely due to La Nina conditions. So we are looking for about 13 to 19 named storms, so that's tropical storm or higher. A tropical storm's winds are 39 miles per hour or higher. Then we get into 6 to 10 of those 13 to 19 will likely become hurricanes, which is 74 miles per hour or higher. That's a Category 1. And then of those 6 to 10, 3 to 5 become major hurricanes, which is about 111 miles per hour or higher. So a Category 3, 4, or 5. Now, again, good reminder, too, that it's not always about the category. The Saffir-Simpson wind scale is fantastic. That's how we measure hurricane categories, but it is only based on wind. Sometimes some of the worst storm surge can happen from storms that aren't a Cat 3, Cat 4, Cat 5. Now, the big reason why, I guess we're going to show, actually, I put this in an order that was fine, but we're going to go to the next graphic. You know how it is. There's where I can see it. Sorry, this is only my third
That's my
time
bad.
being
I
in
made
the
the
impact
point.
center, so I'm like, okay, yes. So hurricane season compared to the others. So NHCs, we just put those in 13 to 19, 6 to 10, 3 to 5. Colorado State and NC State also agreeing with above average. You can see on the right portion of your screen, average 4, 7, and 3. So why? Why do they think we're going to have an above average season? Well, the big reason why, as it often is La Nina, which is a climate pattern. If you were not familiar with what El Nino, La Nina, and La Nada, which is an unofficial term, but these are climate phases through what's called the El Nino Southern Oscillation. These are long-range climate forecasts that impact not just hurricane season, but our winter outlooks, our summer outlooks. So if you've ever seen a 3-month outlook that's been put out by the Climate Prediction Center, it is probably due to this at some point. So simplest terms, in an El Nino year, we normally have less storms. The reason why is there's more wind shear, and the Atlantic is typically cooler. During a La Nina year, we normally see more hurricanes because there is less wind shear, the atmosphere is more unstable, and you see warmer ocean water temperatures. Now here's where things get complicated. There is also a third pattern, again unofficially called La Nada, which is a neutral zone. We just ended a La Nina and we are shifting toward La Nada conditions. But long range forecasts look like we will kind of gear back toward La Nina closer to about July and into August. So sometimes we can shift back and forth between two. The reason why shifting between La Nina and La Nada is important is because La Nina is a higher than normal storm season typically, and La Nada is a neutral phase, which means it doesn't make things worse or better just based on those base conditions. However, some of the worst hurricane seasons and some of the worst hurricanes that we have seen in the United States have happened during La Nada years. Again, example, 1992, Hurricane Andrew, and also 2005, which Hurricane Katrina made landfall in Louisiana. We know near New Orleans, and in fact, we are coming up this year on the 20th anniversary of Katrina. So I think it's important to remember and kind of look at those. The way that I think of climate predictions is it's similar to when we look at severe weather chances. Like we know that the ingredients are there and this is the most likely scenario. Doesn't mean that necessarily it will happen, because again, we could have 5 category 5 hurricanes, but if they all stay off the United States, we're fine. So that's the outlook. Let's talk about other things that I thought was interesting from this. And Nick, I would like you to tell me if you think any of these are interesting and you agree. So one thing I thought was interesting is that every single category 5 to ever hit the United States was a tropical storm or less 3 days prior.
That is very interesting and alarming too.
So the reason why I bring this up is that rapid intensification, which we talked about last year with Helene and Milton, has become a big problem.
Yeah.
Some of our hurricane modeling, which is continuously improving, has become slightly better at rapid intensification, but what we've realized is it's better at forecasting the hurricane itself and not as much the rapid intensification. Again, every time we have storms, unfortunately or fortunately, we get better at forecasting them, but they normally have to happen first, for us to get better. So the reason why that's important is people knowing their impact. We see lesser impacts in terms of a direct landfall, obviously, here in the Carolinas, but we actually see our worst storms here in Charlotte and the Western Carolinas from storms that make landfall in the Big Bend of Florida. We don't really see we can get rain and we can get all those things, obviously, from a storm like Florence that hit the South Carolina, North Carolina coast. But our biggest influence, because of where we are the storms that come right up the Big Bend, and we're on that right side, the dirty side,
we're not
most
taking that
likely to
direct
get
hit.
tornadoes, most likely to have heavy rain. So that's one thing. I did think that this was really, really great. It just goes to show you how much better we've gotten at forecasting. So they've used 2005 during this press conference as an example, of course, because they're coming up on the 20 years of Katrina. So 2005, the average error for a 5-day track was almost 500 miles. In 2020, it was only 200 miles. So in 15, 20 years, they've essentially cut it more in half, their track error. And that is like the forecast track you see. And if that's 5 days, which means the 3-day, the 1 day is even better.
Yeah.
So it just kind of goes to show how much better we've gotten at forecasting. I will also remind folks that the center does go out of the center, the track sometimes, and we really do need to focus less on like the center of the track itself and more on the impacts. But I think showing how much better we've gotten is an important I'm a data person, as you know, so it's interesting to look at these.
Very interesting stuff, by the way.
Yeah, one thing that was happening this year is that NOAA, National Hurricane Center, have invested in upgrades in their hurricane forecasting system, which is a specific model as it tries to get better about rapid intensification. I mentioned that. They're putting new radars on their P3 Hurricane Hunter plane, so that will be a new tool that they can kind of use when the hurricane hunters are going in and out. They also use buoys, gliders, things that they always have. I already talked about that, reminding folks to focus on impacts. I made some notes while we were doing it. The biggest thing that they just want to remind people about is that the biggest impacts that we've seen over the past, especially 5 to 10 years, have been from rapid intensification, more flooding because of heavier rain events and stronger winds. And a lot of these do have that tie back to climate change. And it's not trying to make, say that every single impact that we've ever had has been because of that, but it all ties back into warmer ocean waters.
Yeah.
Because anytime you get water temperatures above 79 degrees Fahrenheit, you have more fuel to work with, a more moist atmosphere, whether you're talking about the atmosphere where we live or the water, just holds more water. And as water warms, it expands. So of course, I douse you in 3 gallons of cold water versus 3 gallons of warm water. Like the warm water itself will just naturally even take up more space because the particles are a little bit further apart versus closer compacted. So just like a few things to note here. Oh, one of the reasons why they said that the mile error thing that we just talked about was so important is because you think 30 to 40 miles can make such a big difference, especially in coastal cities where a lot of people live, like Miami, New Orleans, Houston. That's more of people near the coast. But hey, I mean, we're in Charlotte. We have friends, who live out in Myrtle Beach, things like that. This one was good. So the University of Miami, which they're the Hurricanes, which I thought was a little ironic there, but they did a study recently that showed that between 2007 and 2020, based on our better forecasting tools, that the United States saved $60 billion in disaster recovery, that they would have had to pay out.
And keeping more people safe.
Yeah,
This is
of course. But, of course, they look at the numbers to kind of compare.
Of course.
Well, I mean, I think that just goes to show, not that I'm trying to get off topic here, but we know that other than Hurricane Maria, which largely did cause most of the deaths in Puerto Rico, so a U.S. territory, which was in 2017, Helene was the first storm to kill as many people since Katrina, which that's not a number that we want to see, but that's still almost 20 years in between the two storms. And speaking of Helene, NOAA is also working toward mapping the entire country, doing new flood mapping. They're expecting this to be done by 2026, so it's not that long, which is really good. The way that they compared this is that flood mapping helped 2 significant ways during Helene. First way was there was a hospital in Tennessee that was able to be pre-evacuated days in advance because of this flood mapping from Helene. And we saw a lot of impacts, we know, in eastern Tennessee, almost just as bad as the western Carolinas. Yeah. And then the second, which a lot of us, I think, remember because there are so many pictures of it, but do you remember Tampa General Hospital, how they had to put up that hydro fencing for Helene and then Milton right after, because they were like the biggest trauma center in that area? They were able to know to put up that hydro fencing so many days in advance because of the same flood mapping. Especially because they got hit twice. We knew Helene and then Milton. It was like
back to back, essentially.
I mean, it was essentially a week. So I think looking back, again, what we've done and kind of how things can improve and how they can continue to do so is really great. Also, the storm surge inundation maps will be part of the flood mapping and just updating things and making sure they're up to date. And we have just seen such a drastic impact in people being more aware of storm surge and how it is such a big killer that we are to the point where we've dropped deaths from storm surge to the point where we're now losing more people due to rip currents near the coast during a big storm than from storm surge. Okay. So that's not saying great thing people are still dying, but it's saying we've kind of shifted from storm surge being, it's still a big impact, but left from people dying from storm surges often. And so they're wanting to make sure that we're still talking about storm surge, but we're also using more language kind of geared toward rip currents. And I know we just did Rip Current Awareness Week a few weeks ago. And the biggest thing that National Weather Service in Morehead City, North Carolina, which covers a lot of that, has always told me every time I've done an interview with them, is that people assume that most of the deaths happen from people who live in the Carolinas. For example, if you're using our coast, and that's not the case. Only 20% is from that. 80% are people who live in the inland Carolinas or other parts of the country. So the ironic part is meteorologists, we talk about this all the time in the broadcast world, but someone in Kansas or Oregon who has people who are going to vacation, let's say in Myrtle Beach, Wilmington,
With no sort
for
of
Memorial
awareness,
Day,
yeah.
they're actually the ones who should be talking about it almost more.
Yeah.
Because it's those people who are then coming and traveling that are being impacted more. Because you just assume, like sweet Carlene Bragg is from Charleston, like people would assume someone like her, who's from there and swims all the time, goes to the beach all the
Right.
time, would be the one. It's not. It's only 20% of people who are essentially local to those areas.
That makes sense.
So I think it, again, just all kind of ties in. But I know it took up a lot of your time. But those were just some kind of the
this is
things that I thought
fascinating.
were really, really interesting from this study. And I know we'll continue to talk about this. We have our hurricane special, that's happening in 2 weeks. So we'll talk more about this data. Brad's doing some stories kind of NOAA on like the NOAA cuts and how that can impact hurricane season. But I think all of this is important to talk about since the season starts in about a week and a half, and just going back and also looking at the things that, again, were positive from the storms that we have had, even though they unfortunately have killed people and caused billions of dollars in disaster relief, that we can go back and we can look at those things and improve forecasting for the future.
Look, you did not take up a bulk of my time. I enjoy this because I think, you guys, the Weather Impact team, you guys do a great job of breaking down a lot of this data and putting it into context. And so it makes sense. So I'm able to follow. I'm like, okay, all right, this
Yeah.
oh, wow, okay. So I'm sitting here locked in, nodding like, oh, what?
Yeah, I just all thought those were really interesting. I watched the whole,
Yeah.
and just wanted to make note of those things. And I just want to remind people that, yes, it only takes one storm to make a bad season, but we have you covered. Again, not just with the hurricane special where we'll talk about everything you need to know, but every step of the way, just like with Helene, we never want a disaster to come, but it's just the nature of weather and Mother Nature. So don't have hurricane anxiety this year. Know that we are here every single step of the way, and we'll continue to do everything that we can to keep you safe.
Brittany Van Voorhees, as always, awesome job. Thank you for coming in here.
Thank you for having me.
We'll have to have you in here more often.
Anytime.
We'll try.
Next year event.
All right, Brittany. All right, thank you. That's an incredible breakdown by Brittany. All right, so we want to shift gears now. Where do we want to go, Carlene?
We've got some lawmakers talking about the shooting outside of the Jewish museum right now.
Okay. All right. So to give a little bit more context, I have the article up. So 2 staff members of the Israeli embassy were killed in a shooting near the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. Again, we got some lawmakers speaking about it right now. Let's take you there live. Can we take you there?
Yes.
Yep. Here we go.
We don't have any further information. I was here last night with Washington's chief of police, the mayor of Washington, and of course, all the law enforcement agencies. The suspect continues to be under investigation. I don't have an update as to the extent to which he was working alone or with others, or whether or not he has any contorted manifesto or something along those lines. I reject your question or the insinuation that anti-Semitism is rising because of Israel's defense of its country. Hamas declared war. Israel is responding to that war. We will not allow Hamastan to exist on our borders. We will not allow an Iranian proxy to exist on our borders. We had our people slaughtered. It's not going to happen again. Hamas has to be destroyed, will be destroyed the very same way that the Nazis were destroyed. These are new Nazis, and we're going to defeat them. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, not because of Israel's responding, but because of countries like France, who under this circumstance, now, tomorrow, plan to propose the unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state. So the French, in their contorted morality under the government of Macron, is going to declare October 7th Palestine Independence Day. This is a contorted sense of morality. They should be ashamed of themselves, and we're going to oppose that in the area of diplomacy as well.
אוקיי, אני מישראל, אנחנו עושים עם אפשר בעברית פרטים שאפשר לומר על החקירה. אנחנו מבינים שהוא הסתובב כאן זמן רב, והוא ידע ממש לזהות את הנציגים היהודים, זה היה אירוע רב-לאומי.
הוא היה בתוך האירוע, מתברר, הסתובב בתוך האירוע. אנחנו לא יודעים עדיין בדיוק מה הוא אמר, אבל אמר מספיק כדי שירחיקו אותו מהאירוע, יצא החוצה, חיכה לישראלים, עובדי השגרירות, לצאת, ירה בהם, למזלנו הרב, עוד שלוש עובדות השגרירות הספיקו לברוח, והצילו את עצמם.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. Right there, you're watching live the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. speaking, giving some sort of update on that shooting, that tragic shooting there in Washington, D.C. 2 staff members of the Israeli embassy killed in a shooting near the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. And we are right now keeping our eye on a press conference. We're supposed to get updates on this investigation, this case. Well, that shot just went out. Let's take you back here. But again, this is a live look as the Israeli ambassador speaks, reacts to this tragic shooting there in D.C. All right, so we want to shift now to San Diego, California. This is a story we had this breaking during our 9 to 11 stream. Okay, I just want to make sure. So so a small plane crashes into a San Diego neighborhood, and multiple people have been confirmed to have been killed by this. This is live coverage from CBS 8, our content partner there in San Diego. They've been giving updates and wall-to-wall coverage all morning into the afternoon. So let's take you there now. Let's take a listen in.
Full.
Now we got her attention.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Ruby, and thank you for everything that you do. Again, this is the essence here at Miller Elementary, that during this tragedy and all the trauma that people have faced, they can come here where maybe they feel a little bit of normalcy, and as well as they can pet Ruby the therapy dog, where they can be comforted and comforted in all of that love that they just need to face right now.
Abby, thank you very much for that. Yeah, of course, any comfort they can provide those kids.
A lot of comfort.
You saw a lot of the kids in their pajamas.
Yeah.
So this was at 4 in the morning where they all had to leave. We do want to recap what happened with this plane that went down in this neighborhood in Tierra Santa. I believe we have Chopper 8 up now that can give you this aerial view. Look at that neighborhood.
You see it from above. It just changes everything. And you can see what we were talking about, how widespread the debris field is. Now you can see how widespread it is up and down this entire stretch of Sample Street. It started on one side of the street. The airplane that crashed, it had multiple fatalities on it, is where that triangle is right there. And there's 2 different scenes with the parts that are strewn across the road there. On the left side of your screen is where that plane initially crashed into that home, 10297 Sample Street. And then that plane kind of came down and it crashed into several vehicles, and then a river of fire from the jet fuel lit up every single car that was on one side of that street, even around the side to the other side. We do know that 3 people on the ground were injured, 3 were taken to the hospital, 2 were treated and released, so they had minor injuries. Still trying to get more information about the other person who was hospitalized, but we were told that the fatalities were contained to the aircraft itself.
And when the assistant fire chief first spoke early this morning, he mentioned this is like a scene from a movie, and you can see that now, this aerial footage. I mean, from the ground, from the air, you just see so much has burned because of how hot this fire burned. I mean, that fuel, when it gets lit up, it is hot. It incinerates everything in its path, and you can see that right there with those vehicles. So much is melted. The plastic trash bins that were out melted into nothing now. The glass shattered. These vehicles were not parked there overnight. They were parked on both sides of the street, and they got tossed into the middle of the road. So much of this plane obviously now destroyed. We can hardly tell what parts are part of the plane, what part of the vehicle. And, you know, this aerial video right here really does give you that perspective that it's not just limited to this corner where it first crashed.
We're seeing the back of that house. You see there's a playground there. Children lived in that house. That vantage point you just saw there is where the plane came in. It nicked to the side of that house, and I say nicked, but I mean it destroyed, you know, the half of that house, and then it found its way onto the street where it crashed into the top portion of the road there. All those cars were either destroyed by the impact of the plane crash itself or by the jet fuel that spewed down the side on the gutter there. But just tough to see this neighborhood, this Navy community where our military members live and are impacted by this. 100 people had to be evacuated because now it is a tough scene with all of the jet fuel exposed. There's chemicals chemical fumes in the air. So this is now turned into a hazmat situation, which is why those 100 people had to be evacuated to Miller Elementary, where we just saw our live shots from our reporters. So animals also impacted this as well.
Right.
Many of them being treated at the Gain Street Humane Society.
Yeah, and we know, with so many of these families, their loved ones are deployed. They're likely getting word of this tragedy that happened on their street. And, for a lot of these parents on their own with multiple kids having to figure out where to go, schools are closed in that area. Hancock Elementary, I want to point out, is off of Tausig, which is just a few blocks away from this crash site. So think about that. So many of these families with multiple children walk to school, to Hancock Elementary every day. That school obviously closed today. Now, many of them, if they have cars, were able to go over to Miller Elementary, but likely friends, family, loved ones are coming to take them to where they need to go because so many people lost their vehicles in this, their way to get to school, to get to work. We know military service requires, obviously, reporting to duty at all hours,
right.
Some overnight, some in the early morning shifts, the late night shifts. It is a round-the-clock type of job, and these people are now really impacted because if you don't have a car to get to work, it's going to be very tough to recover from that. They live paycheck to paycheck. They're now relying on the services at Miller Elementary for childcare for so many parents who now have to go to work still. Also, the food, the diapers you saw all lined up at the school because they're going to need a lot of help now until they can get back home and resume some sort of normalcy.
But you know that this airplane was registered out of the Midwest, out of Wichita. It was on its way from Wichita to our field here, Montgomery Field. We do know that plane is a Cessna. It's a Cessna Citation, a dual-engine business plane. Holds up to 8 to 10 people, but we don't know how many were on it. We know there were at least 2 people killed on board that flight. And one of the chopper shots at the center of the street, it looked like you could see one of the wings, which is a shot I hadn't seen yet. But there's not much left of that plane, basically disintegrated there. There's some crime scene tape up, and there are some tarps that are down right now. So we do want to send our condolences to the people who were on board that, and also all of those who are impacted by this. Our military community, which we love so much here, we're a military town. Our Navy members, many of them, dozens of them, displaced at 3:45. Woke up in the middle of the night and had to grab whatever they had. Some people tried to move their cars that were on fire at the moment to get it to the other side of the street that wasn't impacted by that river of liquid flames that was going down because of the jet fuel. We've seen some incredible images from home Ring doorbell cameras where there were pops and there were explosions, and then there were pieces of debris that had flown into other parts of people's neighborhoods and yards, and people were running out with their fire extinguishers trying to extinguish the flames while they're grabbing their family members and loved ones and trying to get out of harm's way. The good news is we have a credible response. You already saw all those tents up at Miller Elementary. People are helping out our military members right now and their families, many still in their pajamas after this tough wake-up call they got this morning in this Tierra Santa neighborhood.
Yeah, now we are almost over 6 hours after that crash site, and for so many people to not be allowed home for this long, they're wondering when they can get back. Some of the homes that were not directly impacted, they're going to eventually let people back, but for now they do need to block off this entire area. As the chopper view is pulling out, you can see on the top left, that's Hancock Elementary School. That's how close the school is to where this happened. There's Santo Road in the middle of your screen, the canyon there. So we are going to take a quick break here, and we're going to regroup our crews on the scene. They are in multiple locations where rescuers are now helping families and helping pets, and we're going to bring you more team coverage on this small plane that went down in the Tierra Santa neighborhood here in just a few minutes. We're taking a quick break, but we are now on CBS 8+, our streaming channel. We hope you stay with us.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. Right there is live coverage. Well, we just had live coverage of that small plane crash into a San Diego neighborhood. Right now, you're watching live in Washington, D.C. as the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. is answering questions following that tragic shooting of 2 Israeli staff members, Israeli embassy staffers that were shot last night. He's just wrapping up, the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., and we are awaiting a press conference. We're supposed to get an update shortly. Also, that press conference, plus it looks like we're going to have a White House briefing, which
That's what it appears.
It appears that way. The setup is there. So it.
Usually these are right around 1. They tend to run a little bit.
And to be transparent,
late.
This wasn't on.
This wasn't on our docket,
yeah.
so we were unclear that this was happening.
So this, I'm pretty sure the White House will react to this, give their thoughts on this. We don't know if they're going to provide any sort of update. They're not, again, we're waiting a press conference with updates on that shooting. But again, this is a live look there as we await that White House briefing that is set to happen any moment now. All right, so let's shift away from both of those stories. Again, we're keeping an eye on both of those stories and move to something much lighter.
Closer to home.
Yeah, a lot closer to home. Just reset for a second. So we got a chance to speak with Carolina FC. They are number 1 in the new league. And
absolutely delightful.
Oh, man, they were great.
Yep.
And they're about to make a playoff push. They have 2 more regular season games. They have a game this weekend in Brooklyn, and then they play June 8th at home in their first playoff matchup. I got a chance to interview 2 of the midfielders. Let's take a listen into that interview. All right, so we got some guests in here. Carlene, I like guests. I get excited about guests. I'm pushing my chair up. So we got the best pro team in the Charlotte area. Look, I'm putting a lot of pressure on these ladies. Let me not spoil it for you. Let me not keep it from you guys. We have Carolina FC in here. We have Ashlyn Sarepka.
Yes.
And Giovanna DeMarco. I practice these names in my head. I don't want to mess up the names. I don't want any problems after this interview.
No, that was good. They're a mouthful.
How does that feel, being the best, me saying that, the best pro team?
I'm blushing.
In there.
I'm speechless. I don't know what to say, but we've worked so hard for it, so.
I mean,
it's exciting.
The proof is in the pudding. I mean, you guys are number 1 in the regular season. You guys still have 2 more regular season games, right?
Yes.
How does that feel? How's this? Because it's been a long season. I know it's kind of split in half, but how's the season, this inaugural season, been?
Oh, it's been amazing. I think it's very rare. I don't know if ever it's ever happened where someone wins the Shield and still has 2 games left. So to outright win the regular season and still have 2 more games left is just a huge accomplishment, and it just speaks volumes to our team and the work that we've put in since August. Like you said, it's been a super long season, so we're August all the way through to June. So we're just in grind mode all the time, which is amazing. But the team, I mean, it just speaks volumes. I mean, the Shield being here just is a true testament to everything, the team, the staff, everyone behind the scenes, the work they've put in.
That's the Shield right there, guys. Oh man, that's pretty sweet. Yeah.
She's glowing.
She is glowing.
How do you guys get through that? It's a grind. That's a long season. Like, how do you pace yourself throughout the season?
I mean, I think it can be tough, but I think that our coaching staff and our training staff and everyone behind the scenes does a really good job of monitoring us and taking care of us. And I mean, there's a ton of stuff that we do off the field to recover and take care of our bodies and make sure that we're showing up every day in tip-top shape. But and I think a big piece of it is the people. Like, we want to come show up every day and give our best self because of the environment that we're in, and we have a really good group, so that makes it worth it.
Where are y'all from?
I'm from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Okay. Eagles fan?
Yes.
Okay, all right. We're going to skip you. Okay. I'm joking.
I'm from Charlotte.
From Charlotte. Okay,
Yes.
so, one, being from Charlotte, how is that? And then also, professional, I mean, the Carolina Charlotte's that's a pretty cool area to be in a pro team, be on a pro team. Like, how is that? Being on a pro team, one being from Charlotte, and then just being in a pro team in just a cool city like Charlotte.
We definitely have the best market. Just kidding, but we love Charlotte. I mean,
she's not kidding.
I am biased being from here, but I mean, to be able to live out my dream in my hometown, it truly is. It makes me like emotional, honestly, thinking about it, because I'm like, I would have never, probably 10 years ago, ever thought that this was something that could happen. And now to be in our hometown and to now bring a championship back to or a shield back to our hometown is something that's so special. And Charlotte's just an amazing sports atmosphere. So to have the support that we do, I mean, we couldn't do it without our fans. So it's just an amazing place to be, an amazing place to live out our dreams.
You're only, 8-9 hours from Philly, so not far.
And I went to school down here.
Okay.
I went to college at Wake Forest, so North Carolina has always
336. I'm from High Point.
Place in my heart.
Yep.
So yeah, it was really nice to be given the opportunity to come back to North Carolina, because I loved it here when I was in school. And I think it's just a great city, and our fans care so much. Like, I would say we have one of the best fan bases in the league, if not the best. And we just get a really good crowd and people who want to show up for us every game. So that means a lot to have that.
Speaking of the fans, do you guys get recognized while you're out and about?
Here and there,
Okay.
We try to.
We went to the Checkers game a couple weeks ago, and some little girls came up to us.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What is game day like? Because I mean, obviously you have 2 more regular season games, and then you're hosting the playoff game, the first playoff game at the stadium. But like, what is that like? Because I remember we covered the very first game. And I was jealous. I was on the anchor desk, but I'm like, can we swap places? Can I be the reporter? And then, I could be out there. But what is game day like for you guys with the fans?
I mean, I think it's a huge shout out to our marketing people and anyone who does any of the behind the scenes stuff on game days, because the fan engagement that they set up is amazing. We've gone to every market for away games, and no place does it like we do. They have so many things going on for especially the younger girls, which is a big fan base for us, is younger girls who want to live out the dreams that we're getting to. And our marketing people and anyone involved just does an amazing job with that engagement, whether it's having a autograph session at the park, or there was a Taylor Swift concert or a Taylor Swift cover band concert before this last game. So there's so much to do, and you can just see it in all the little girls' faces when they're at the games. It's like the highlight of their week, their month, whatever it is. So I think our game days here are super special, and I think it's something that just sets us apart and, again, contributes to our success.
Oh man, what is for you? Are you like super locked in on game day, or do you pay attention to what's going on around you as far as the fans?
I feel like leading up to the game, you're locked in, but once you're like on the field, once you're like warming up and people are starting to trickle in, and then right before they blow the whistle, like I think it's important to like take that moment in and just embrace it, and how lucky we are to have these people who want to come watch us. Like that's such a cool feeling, and yeah, you can't forget that. So.
Oh man, that's dope. All right, that was a chunk of that interview with Carolina Ascent FC. Again, congratulations to those ladies. They are doing incredible things for the city and for the Carolinas. All right, so we'll shift gears now. We'll stay here at home, here in Charlotte. So this morning we got a big update, a big story, a busy morning, a press conference. Charlotte City Council member Tijuana Brown and her 2 daughters were indicted today on federal charges for allegedly defrauding COVID-19 relief programs to obtain more than $124,000 in pandemic aid. Nate, you've been all over this story since the beginning. You were here on our 9 to 11 stream.
You've been up since like 6 a.m.
Yes.
Yeah, 5:30 today.
5:30.
Earlier than I wanted to be, but it just so happened that I'm glad I woke up early today, because wow, talk about an incredible development after a couple weeks of just madness at City Hall with the City of Charlotte. And this may just take the cake, the allegations against Tijuana Brown. This is a woman who made history, the first formerly incarcerated person to be elected to a city council position in Charlotte, is now facing fraud charges once again. This tied to pandemic relief loans she applied for and her daughters applied for, and the federal government said they essentially lied and made up things to receive that money.
Well, and she was very adamant in that press conference that she was responsible for more than $20,000. She paid it back. She said that over and over throughout the press conference. And she also said that this is politically motivated. Can you dig into that a little bit? Because we were talking about this in the morning meeting about the U.S. Attorney General. He inherited this case.
Yeah.
So that it puts.
I mean, look, we don't know who, first of all, tipped off the feds to this, or if they just discovered it on their own. So that we don't know. What we do know, though, is that the current U.S. attorney, who was just sworn in a couple months ago, says he inherited this case. So they've been investigating this for a while, and it just so happens that it's come to a head now. The indictment lays out a pretty clear case of the case that prosecutors are making. And I went through and looked through some federal PPP data today. That's that payment protection program. Remember these loans that the government would forgive during the pandemic. And what I found is that her loan and her daughter's loans, they had multiple, each of them, were oddly similar in their applications. The timing, the address used, how much they received, what they were spending it on, they all aligned. Now, if you look at Tijuana Brown's Facebook page for her company, TC Collection, it's like a swimwear and clothing business that she says she started around 2020. At least that's what the Facebook page says. The connection would be, well, she was using that money for her business. That's what she told me earlier this morning. Because once I saw her news release that she was going to be holding a press conference, I said, what's going on? And we talked for a little bit around before 6:30 this morning. And she says, I use it for my business. I paid it back. She says she paid it back once she realized that it was being scrutinized. She doesn't understand why they're pursuing criminal charges against her. You know, if you listen to what she said in the news conference, she's saying she's innocent, that she didn't do anything illegal. But if you listen to the U.S. attorney who spoke to WFAE this morning, he will say that in the more than 30 cases of COVID fraud they've pursued over recent years, they're not going after people who make mistakes. They're going after people who knowingly lie or are fraudulent in getting federal money. So the suggestion that this was a mistake or an oversight, at least in other cases, that's not the kind of cases they're pursuing. They say if somebody makes a mistake, we're not going to, for the most part, pursue a criminal charge. We are going to try to recoup the money, but we're not going to try to send that person to prison. This is very clearly, they're headed towards that direction. They believe the three people, Tijuana and her daughters, came up with a scheme. They conspired to come up with a plan to essentially defraud the government.
Wow. And I know, correct me if I'm wrong, during the press conference, she did not answer questions about a portion of that money allegedly being spent on the birthday party. I know that was brought up as well.
Yeah, I mean, so if you look at the indictment, which is several pages long, again, it lays out the prosecution's case, and it says, number one, she spent some of this COVID money on a Louis Vuitton bag and other personal purchases. And then it goes on to say, shortly after receiving this loan, she threw a $15,000 birthday party for herself. Our Julie Kay has been looking into that and found some pictures of her on a throne. There's her with a horse-drawn carriage at this birthday party. She would not answer any questions about that. And her attorney also said that we're not going to try this case right here. Right? We're going to go to a courtroom and we'll try the specifics of the case. But she said if she had to make one point that I think she made over and over again, it's that once she was made aware that people were scrutinizing this loan, she paid her portion back, which she said was a little more than $20,000. That doesn't really account for all of the applications that were not approved by the federal government. The prosecutors say that she and her daughters concocted. it's going to be interesting to see when this goes to court, if it does go to trial, how this shakes out. I do think it's interesting, not surprising to me based on knowing her and having interviewed her multiple times, that she got out ahead of this today. She was defiant. She's a very confident council member. She's not one to just blend in with the wallpaper. She's going to speak her mind. And if we find things that are problematic, she has generally been there to be held responsible and accountable. So that didn't surprise me. What did surprise me, though, is the idea that this might be politically motivated, especially in light of what's happened the last couple of weeks in Charlotte. You know, there's a lot of politics happening right now. It's a small amount of money when you look at how much some of these cases are for, but we expect our public servants to be held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna, you know, create rules and laws and regulations, whether you're a city council member, a state lawmaker, a member of Congress, you're held to a higher standard. And so that's a part of this too.
This is exactly what Julie Kay and I were talking about this morning. Like, you're in this position, you're a politician, you represent constituents in your community. You know, you have to answer those tough questions. I guess a question on my mind, I'm sure on a lot of folks' mind, what's next? What happens next?
Well, she has a court appearance tomorrow.
Okay.
That is slated for tomorrow morning. If you've never been to federal court, you can't bring a camera in. It's old school. You bring in a pad and a pen, and they bring, you know, the defendant in. Usually, it's unclear if she'll be there or if just her attorney will be there, and it'll be their first hearing where you will give a no guilty or a guilty plea. She told me she's going to plead not guilty, and then they'll start setting, you know, hearing dates down the road. If this does go to trial, which I do suspect it will, it's going to take a long time. You know, they have to be given all of the evidence that prosecutors have found. They need to hand it over to them at some point. They need to have a chance to try to get the case dismissed, all very standard. But these other cases, some of them have resulted in plea deals and get resolved much faster. Because this is a lower amount, the U.S. Attorney suggested earlier today that, you know, the sentence could be lessened because of that. So maybe that's a reason to consider a plea deal. You paid the money back already, so there potentially may not be any reason to try to go after more money. But I also found this interesting. I was kind of doing some additional research on her, and at one point she had more than $3,000 worth of debt based on her previous incarceration, having to, you know, pay compensation for her crimes before. So it's this cycle that she has really worked hard in this community to try and break. She now finds herself back in it, and these are costly, these legal situations, and it's going to take attention away from whatever her main focuses have been. And when I talk to her, it's usually inclusion. It's trying to stop recidivism. It's trying to support women in our community and the district that she represents, District 3, Steel Creek, that surrounding area.
Yeah, surprising story. When I saw the press release about the press conference early this morning, and a lot of details that still need to be hammered out. Nate Morabito is on it. Yeah, and you will have an update for us in our evening newscast.
Yeah, I'll be on at 5 and 6 tonight.
Okay.
We're kind of continuing to dig into this. We've already learned some new things. You can see at WCNC.com, too. Okay. That article is growing longer and longer, the more and more information we get. And by the way, I texted with Tijuana a little while ago. She told me her daughters have nothing to say right now.
Right.
If you've noticed in that news conference that she held, she really was focused on herself.
Yes.
And kind of almost separating herself from her daughter's situation. And she's telling us that her daughters aren't going to comment.
Okay.
Gotcha. Well, Nate Morabito, thank you for your time, man. I know you're a busy man. Every time we have you in here, you're always working on something else. So, yeah, Nate, thank you for that update, man.
Appreciate you all.
All right, so we want to shift away from that. We want to go to Washington, D.C. Caroline Leavitt, press secretary for the White House, is speaking right now. Let's listen in.
And the chronic disease epidemic to keep our children healthy, safe, and disease-free. The Maha Commission report is a historic assessment, the first of its kind by any presidential administration, of current evidence and research about the health crisis affecting America's children. This report is a review of pre-existing research to comprehensively assess what we understand about our health problems and what we don't understand, and how we can find those answers. All of the findings will be based on the gold standard of science. And I think I speak for all MAHA moms across the country when I say we look forward to the President's event and remarks later this afternoon. And as we head into the Memorial Day weekend, a quick update on gas prices. According to the fuel savings platform Gas Buddy, the national average price of gasoline is expected to be $3.08 on Memorial Day. We expect that to continue to decline because of the President's energy policies. But this is down from Memorial Day last year. And adjusted for inflation, it's the second cheapest price for a gallon of gas on Memorial Day since 2003, thanks to President Trump. And finally, in other news, the Department of Homeland Security conducted a deportation flight from Texas to remove vicious illegal criminals in the United States. All of these individuals were sent, or are trying to be sent, to a third country. And President Trump promised to get vicious illegal alien murderers, rapists, and pedophiles like these out of our country, and he is trying to deliver on this promise. But no matter how upset this makes Democrats, we will continue to deport these monsters to keep Americans safe. And here are the heinous individuals who were on that flight. A Cuban national convicted of homicide, armed robbery, false impersonation of an official, kidnapping, and robbery strong arm. A Cuban national convicted of attempted first-degree murder with a weapon. A citizen of Laos convicted of first-degree murder and robbery. A Mexican national convicted of second-degree murder. A citizen of South Sudan convicted of robbery and the possession of a firearm. A citizen of Burma convicted of lascivious acts with a child less than 12 years old. A citizen of Burma convicted of first-degree sexual assault involving a victim mentally and physically incapable of resisting. It's disgusting. And a Vietnamese national convicted of first-degree murder. Now, a liberal activist district court judge in the city of Boston, Massachusetts, is trying to force the President of the United States to bring these monsters back to our country. Judge Brian Murphy is ordering the Department of Homeland Security to give these illegal criminals 15 days to reopen their immigration cases with access to phones and attorneys. Every single one of these individuals, I will add, had final orders of removal from our country. And now Judge Murphy is forcing federal officials to remain in Djibouti for over 2 weeks, threatening our U.S. diplomatic relationships with countries around the world, and putting these agents' lives in danger by having to be with these illegal murderers, criminals, and rapists. This is completely absurd. Judge Brian Murphy is not the Secretary of State. He is not the Secretary of Defense or the Commander-in-Chief. He is a district court judge in Massachusetts. He cannot control the foreign policy or the national security of the United States of America, and to suggest otherwise is being completely absurd. According to new reporting about this judge, he's a registered Democrat in Massachusetts who during his Senate confirmation hearings failed to disclose his ties to a radical left-wing organization that claimed the word illegal to describe illegal aliens was inherently prejudicial. This massive judicial overreach by Judge Murphy is part of the same opposition our administration has faced since day one. Radical left-wing judges are egregiously trying to stop President Trump from using his core constitutional powers as head of the executive branch and commander-in-chief. These judicial activists want to unilaterally stop President Trump from deporting foreign terrorists and keeping the American people safe. Nearly 80 million Americans re-elected this president to deport illegal criminals from our homeland, and polling consistently shows that 90% of Americans want illegal alien criminals, especially those with final orders of removal from our country, who have chosen to continue to stay here illegally. Americans want these people sent home. We hope the Supreme Court will continue to rein this in as soon as possible to restore proper constitutional order in our country. We'll take some questions. And here in our new media seat today, we have Jillian Michaels. She's a renowned personal health expert. I know all of you know her. I certainly do, watching fitness videos growing up. And a media powerhouse who continues to expand her reach with her podcast, Keeping It Real. Jillian, I know you're here today for the Make America Healthy Again event. We're proud to welcome you to the White House. Thanks for being in the briefing. Why don't you go ahead?
Thank you for having me. As a MAHA mom yourself, how do you interpret the significance of this report in terms of delivering measurable health improvements for Americans and their kids, and What specific actions does the administration plan to take in response to it?
Sure. Well, thank you for the question. And again, thank you very much for being here. I would like to emphasize, we held a call earlier today with Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Rollins, Administrator Zeldin, and other officials at Health and Human Services to talk about the gravity of this report. When the president took office, he promised to make this country healthy again. And the president signed an executive order directing this commission. And now, less than 100 days later, the commission is delivering this report. It's another promise made and another promise kept. And the report identifies 4 major factors that are contributing to the rise in childhood chronic disease. Again, this is the first time the federal government has really recognized in a single report that we have a problem in our country. Our children are getting sicker, not healthier. This is not just a crisis, a health crisis, but it poses national security implications as well. And this administration is focused on ensuring we understand why. The 4 factors contributing to the report, as you will all hear from the president later, are number 1, poor diet, a robust discussion about ultra-processed food that are dominating our children's diets, environmental chemical exposure, plastics and other chemicals that are unfortunately a part of our daily American life. It talks about the lack of physical activity and chronic stress, and how technology-driven lifestyles are contributing to the decline of our children's physical and mental health. And then lastly, the report touches on the over-medicalization that's taking place in our American society, nowhere else in the world, but just right here in the United States of America. And the report directs the entire administration to understand why these issues are happening and what public policy can the administration implement to ensure that we are fostering a more healthy country for our children. So I'll leave it at that and let the president and his team speak more about this historic report later. But this should be good news for everyone. I don't care what your politics are. We should all agree that we want our children to be healthy and safe, and we want our food supply to be healthy and safe. We have the best farmers and ranchers in the world right here in the United States of America. And we have the best workers in the world. We have the best people in the world. But unfortunately, we have a health crisis that's been plaguing us for too long. And this report speaks to the heart of it. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Garrett, go ahead.
Caroline, you guys are very proud of your record on transparency. I have 2 transparency-related questions for you.
Sure.
On the president's dinner tonight, will the White House commit to making a list of the attendees public so people can see who's paying for that kind of access to the president?
Well, as you know, Garrett, this question has been raised with the president. I have also addressed the dinner tonight. The president is attending it in his personal time. It is not a White House dinner. It's not taking place here at the White House. But certainly I can raise that question and try to get you an answer for it.
Okay, and on the Qatari aircraft, the Air Force has
Are you watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus? I'm Nick Sturdivant. It looks like we have a little bit of problems on that White House briefing feed, but we want to shift over now, stay in D.C. and go live to a press conference that's going on. Several Jewish members of Congress visiting the Capitol Jewish Museum to pay their respects for the 2 Israeli embassy staff members that were killed Wednesday evening. Let's take a listen into this press conference.
From wherever it arises, and be clear that there is no room for hate in our country, that we will welcome all people into our country who believe in the ideals defined in our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. And we've been working with that. We have a bipartisan task force fighting anti-Semitism that goes back to 2014. So it's
Can I'd
please.
love to jump in and add. As a senior member of the Appropriations Committee, I can run through a list for anyone who would like to know what Democrats have attempted to do. I want to just make sure that it's understood that we're here to express grief and to express our outrage about the death of the murder of 2 young, incredibly beautiful people who had their whole lives ahead of them, and that this hate has to stop. And so let's show you how we can stop anti-Semitism in its tracks. We need to all come together to increase the funding for the Office of Civil Rights in the Department of Education. When I offered an amendment last year during the appropriations process in committee, Democrats supported the amendment to increase that funding. This is the office that investigates anti-Semitism in educational institutions all across the country, and unfortunately, Republicans opposed it. We have had years and years of fighting to increase the funding for nonprofit security grants. Nonprofit security grants are the funding for institutions like the Capitol Jewish Museum, like synagogues and mosques and other religious institutions and nonprofit organizations and JCCs across the country that sadly have to fund the security guards and the security infrastructure and architecture to keep congregants and participants in events that attend events like the one from last night, that keep them safe. But we have not always had bipartisan support to increase that funding. We've had an administration that has for a time refused to release funding that was already appropriated. And so making sure that we actually are fully engaged in getting resources out in these communities to keep people safe, which is what I was referencing when I opened my remarks, is critical. But I'll just close on this question with this. We all need to stand together to fight anti-Semitism and any form of hate and bigotry. What we don't need is to be weaponizing anti-Semitism, to use anti-Semitism as a weapon and as an excuse to discriminate against and perpetrate hate against other people and take away other people's rights. I just had my last two children graduate from college 2 weeks ago. And thank you. They're launched. And I can tell you that we heard stories from my kids' friends and even on the campus that they attended, and I worried every day. Congressman Schneider and I sat down last year with kids from Georgetown, George Mason, and GW when the encampment was still embedded on that campus. And we heard their fear and the persecution that they went through, the halting and preventing of them from being able to cross the threshold of their classroom doors, being spat upon. And we helped make sure that we could get that encampment disassembled, and that we stood with students across this country to help make sure we could keep them safe. But we're not going to allow our community and anti-Semitism to be used as a weapon that will just blow back on our community like it always does for Jews, because eventually we get blamed for everything. And so yes, we must stand against anti-Semitism. We must use resources, and we need to have the whole of government plans that the Biden administration implemented to truly ensure that we can embed the fight against anti-Semitism in every policy-making decision across this country.
Thank you for being here today.
May I add to that?
Yeah, and then you can call the next question.
I would just like to put an even finer point on this. I want to be really clear that what is happening right now with using anti-Semitism as an excuse specifically to crack down on institutions of higher learning, that is not acceptable to the vast majority of American Jews. It is antithetical to our values. We understand that these institutions are the institutions that support liberal, democratic values, the values that allow Jewish people in this country to thrive and accomplish for the past 50 years. And I just want to condemn using us as an excuse to crack down on free speech and to crack down on students and to deny funding for our universities that we all graduated from and we are so proud of. That is my comment. Next question.
Any other questions?
And I apologize. Some of us have planes, so we're going to wrap it up here, and we can take individual questions as we go.
Okay.
And none of us have slept yet tonight.
Yeah, right.
So thank you
Okay,
very much.
We'll take questions off to the side. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, guys.
May their memories be a blessing.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. Right there is a press conference that just wrapped up with several Jewish members of Congress as they are outside the Capitol Jewish Museum, paying their respects for the 2 Israeli embassy staff members who were brutally murdered Wednesday evening. All right, now let's shift back to, we have the feedback, let's shift back to the White House briefing that is happening live. That is Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt speaking, answering questions. Let's take a listen in.
Senator, Senate Majority Leader Thune, and of course so many friends on the Senate side of the Hill, and he's expecting them to get busy on this bill and send it to his desk as soon as possible. Phil.
Thank you. Given that the president said the other day the SALT cap, we don't want to benefit Democratic governors, if the Senate was to reduce that SALT cap or make any type of changes, would he support that, or is this a situation where done is beautiful and he just wants to pass it?
Well, look, it's a hypothetical question, obviously. Negotiations. Well, correct, and the bill passed, didn't it? So now it's off to the Senate where additional negotiations will take place, and we'll see how it goes. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions on the beautiful bill. One of the campaign promises from President Trump was no tax on Social Security. Now, due to congressional rules, that wasn't able to be included in this bill. How does the president plan to follow through on that campaign promise?
Well, this bill did address taxes for our seniors. It actually allows them to take off significant money from their Social Security payments, get more money back, I should say, put more money in their pockets for various reasons. So this bill delivers on that promise. That's the view of the White House.
Secondly, you had 2 Republicans last night that voted against this bill, Congressman Massey and Davidson. Does the president think that they should be primaried?
I believe he does, and I don't think he likes to see grandstanders in Congress. What's the alternative? I would ask those members of Congress. Did they want to see a tax hike? Did they want to see our country go bankrupt? That's the alternative by them trying to vote no. And the president believes the Republican Party needs to be unified, and the vast majority of Republicans clearly are and are listening to the president. They are trusting in President Trump, as they should, because there's a reason he's sitting in this Oval Office. It's because he's the unequivocal leader of the Republican Party. And not just a president for Republicans, but all Americans. The president's approval rating is at an all-time high right now. And it's because he knows how to deliver. And Republicans like Thomas Massey and others should take note. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. Building on the question about Social Security, the bill includes the president's promises to address taxes on tips and overtime. Could you say his feelings about the income cap? Is he satisfied where that landed? And also on a different matter, can you comment on the investigation that the Justice Department has into Andrew Cuomo?
As for the first question, the president is clearly satisfied where the bill landed because it passed. Again, now it has to go to the Senate, so changes could certainly be made. As for your second question, I would defer you to the Department of Justice. Christian.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. Can you explain the decision to totally shake up FEMA leadership just a week before hurricane season?
You'd have to ask the Department of Homeland Security in terms of leadership, but certainly the administration, and I know the National Security Council here at the White House is monitoring storms and natural disasters that are happening across the country at all times. We're briefed on those. The administration is briefed on those, and Secretary Noem is leading that effort for sure.
Switching gears, Caroline.
Yeah, just following up on Warren Davidson, I wanted to read you his quote that he posted online. While I love many things in the bill, promising someone else will cut spending in the future does not cut spending. Deficits do matter, and this bill grows them. Why should that get a Republican primary?
This bill saves $1.6 trillion for the American taxpayer. It saves more than any bill that has ever passed Capitol Hill has. In fact, by double. The next bill saved $800 billion. This bill saves $1.6 trillion. So this is a very good bill for the American people, the American taxpayer. And I believe, as an outlet put it with a headline this morning, it might have been Politico actually, they wrote that the American people are going to be flush with cash when this thing is signed into law. And that's a good thing for American taxpayers. Sure, go ahead.
Caroline, what is the president doing to win Senate passage by July 4th? And does that include work to eliminate carried interest and make business tax cuts permanent? Where is he on those issues?
Well, look, this bill literally just passed the House of Representatives. So now our team is suiting up for discussions with the Senate side of Capitol Hill. The president, again, said this morning he hopes to see this bill at his desk as soon as possible, and he'll be engaged in the process to get it through the Senate, just like he was to get it through the House of Representatives.
What kind of assurances did he give the Freedom Caucus members to to kind of ensure that this would get through last night was changes to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac part of that equation, changes administratively to Medicaid as well?
Well, I was in that meeting yesterday with the president and House Freedom Caucus, and he told them how he wants to be a cheerleader for them, a cheerleader for the Republican Party, and for the country. And Republicans faced a pivotal moment yesterday. They could have voted to bankrupt the country and increase taxes by $4 trillion, or they could vote for this one big beautiful bill which cuts taxes and saves American taxpayers money. And he put that proposition before them, and clearly they heeded the call because the bill passed last night. Sure.
Caroline, so on the
Or this morning, rather. Every day is going into the next. Go ahead.
The Netanyahu call, just curious, did the president raise the flow of aid into Gaza? Is he happy with where that situation is right now?
Not to my knowledge, but I can certainly go back and check.
And then, did you have any reaction to the Supreme Court's ruling about the religious charter school today, as well as Justice Coney Barrett's decision to recuse herself?
We'll get you an answer on that case specifically. Sure.
You mentioned the president has a good relationship with Leader Thune. Has he talked to him specifically about the plan to get this through the Senate? Does he plan, or is he going to reach out to Republicans who have voiced concerns?
Not to my knowledge has he spoken to Leader Thune this morning. He very well could have. I just wasn't briefed on that call. We can go back and check for you. The president did speak to Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning. He also had a call with President Sheinbaum this morning. He was receiving his intelligence briefing. He's been very busy all morning. But again, he certainly intends to remain active and engaged in these negotiations with the United States Senate to get this bill done.
And just following up on the dinner tonight, you mentioned this is not a White House dinner, but the president is always the president, and the Trump family is making money off of this. So can you just explain, how is this not the president using the office to enrich himself?
All of the president's assets are in a blind trust, which is managed by his children, and I would argue one of the many reasons that the American people reelected this president back to this office is because he was a very successful businessman before giving it up to publicly serve our country. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. Last week, the president told Brett Baer that he trusts his people, but thinks that the official narrative on his assassination attempts are, quote, a little bit odd. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said days later that there's no conspiracy to find, and as he put it, quote, the there that you're looking for is not there. My question is the president personally satisfied with the investigations into the attempts on his life? And does he agree with Deputy FBI Director, or does he think there's more to it?
Well, in the lead up to your question, you answered your own question with the president's own words, and I'll leave it at that.
Caroline?
Sure, go ahead, Haley.
Thank you, Caroline.
Haley, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. I wanted to follow up on his call with Prime Minister Netanyahu in his effort to reach a deal with Iran. Does he feel like he has the Prime Minister's support in this effort at this point, or did the Prime Minister raise concerns to him in this conversation?
I won't get further into the private discussion between the president and the Prime Minister, but surely they have a good relationship, one that's built on transparency and trust. And the president has made it very clear to not just Prime Minister Netanyahu, but also the world that he wants to see a deal with Iran struck if one can be struck. He does not want to have to take the latter option, the more severe and negative option. He wants to see a deal. The president is a deal maker, and he believes strongly in diplomacy, and he's made that clear to the Prime Minister, but also to all of you and, frankly, the rest of the world. Mary.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions, one on the terror attack last night and then another on the big, beautiful bill. Do you or President Trump have a message to politicians like Ilhan Omar, who only this morning explicitly avoided condemning this act of terror?
It's despicable. And frankly, we have seen a rise in anti-Semitic protests of pro-Hamas protests of terrorist sympathizers. We saw them on our college campuses, and we've seen the Democrat Party turn a blind eye and in some cases actually embrace such anti-Semitic illegal behavior. And that's why this administration has done more than any administration in history to crack down on anti-Semitism. As you know, in January, when the president took office, he signed a new executive order to combat anti-Semitism. He created a commission focused on doing just that. The Justice Department announced their task force as well. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has revoked thousands of student visas from campuses where these pro-Hamas terrorist campus agitators and violent protests took place. And we've also withheld funding from those very campuses as well in an effort to combat anti-Semitism. So the president's made it very clear that such hatred will have no place in our country.
Thank you. And then on the big, beautiful bill, I know there's a provision that the House included that defunds Planned Parenthood, not only because of the fact that it's the nation's largest abortion provider, but also because it's, I think, the biggest distributor of transgender hormones right now, even to minors, according to Live Action. So is the president committed to making sure that provision stays in the Senate?
The president has maintained a very clear commitment to ensuring that this administration and the American people's tax dollars are not funding any institution. That includes hospital systems that are funding the chemical castration and mutilation of children. We're not going to tolerate taxpayer dollars going to such efforts. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. You mentioned at the top of the briefing that the migrants were to be sent to a third country. I was just wondering, could you share any more on, which countries the administration has struck these agreements with and what that agreement with South Sudan specifically looks like?
Well, first of all, I won't litigate foreign policy from the podium, but what I will reiterate is the absurdity of this ruling from a district court judge in Boston who is just creating new immigration laws out of thin air. This administration, let me be very clear, because there have been a lot of fake headlines about this deportation flight over the last 2 days. This administration has complied with all court orders. And the individuals whose names I just revealed and whose criminal histories I just spoke of that are on this flight, every single one of them had a final order of removal from our country. In fact, one of these violent illegal criminals had a final order of removal given to him in 1999. It's 2 years after I was born. This individual, this criminal, has been living in our country for an entire generation. And now we have a district court judge who is trying to tell the president and the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Homeland Security that an illegal criminal murderer who's been hiding in the shadows in our country for nearly 30 years cannot be deported from United States soil. That not only is undermining our entire immigration system, but it is also undermining our diplomatic negotiations with countries around the world. How are countries on this earth supposed to trust the United States government and these good faith diplomatic negotiations when these countries accept these repatriation flights? How are they supposed to trust us if we have radical district court judges who are going to say, no, you can't do that? And now these illegal criminal murderers and rapists have to sit in Djibouti with our ICE agents who now have to sit there for more than 2 weeks without the proper resources. This judge is not only undermining our immigration system, undermining our foreign policy and our national security, but this judge is undermining the safety of the ICE agents who are putting their lives on the line to remove this list of illegal criminal terrorists. It's truly despicable what's happening in our court system, and the president and this administration hope that the Supreme Court will do what it needs to do to rein in these liberal activist judges. And the Supreme Court has already said it is well within the president's purview to dictate foreign policy, and a radical district court judge should not be getting in the way of that. We'll see you all later at the MAHA event. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. A White House briefing there just wrapped up in our nation's capital. We want to go back to San Diego. This is coverage from CBS 8 in San Diego, California, and they've been covering a small plane crash in a neighborhood there. Am I saying this right, Jeb? Tierra Santa? Tierra Santa. It happened this morning, according to San Diego police. Police said the incident happened at around 4 a.m. in the area of Sample and Salmon Street. At least 15 homes were affected by this crash, according to San Diego Fire Rescue Department. And again, our crews on the ground, CBS 8, our content partners, CBS 8 crews have been on the scene, and they've noticed large plane parts and heavy smoke around that neighborhood when that plane crashed. So let's take you there to their coverage. Again, this has been wall-to-wall coverage since this morning.
CBS 8, CBS8.com, as well as CBS 8 Plus, our streaming channel.
You're watching our streaming channel right now, which we do appreciate. And we're going to continue our coverage throughout the day with multiple teams right here on CBS 8 Plus. And this is available at any time that you want to search for this information. We are here for you to bring that to you. Our next update will be right at 11 a.m. Thank you so much for being with us. We are going to get you caught up on breaking news here of a small plane that crashed into a neighborhood in Tierra Santa. You see the destruction to this neighborhood here. Thank you so much for joining us. You are now on CBS 8 Plus, our streaming channel. We're glad you're with us. I'm Netta Iranpour.
I'm Eric Connor.
All right, so that was live coverage there from CBS 8 in San Diego. Again, a small plane crashed into a neighborhood this morning in the Tierra Santa area early again this morning. That's according to San Diego police. They've been doing coverage all day and continue to do coverage all day. They are our content partner, CBS 8 in San Diego. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that, and we'll continue to bring you updates in that investigation. All right, what's back here at home? We want to get back to a story that we've been covering all morning, and that is the story surrounding Charlotte City Council member Tijuana Brown. Tijuana Brown and her two daughters were indicted today on federal charges for allegedly defrauding COVID-19 relief programs to obtain more than $124,000 in pandemic aid. The indictment claims the group filed at least 15 fraudulent loan applications between April 2020 and September 2021 using fake tax forms and false documentation. Now, federal prosecutors say the money was used for personal spending, including $15,000 for a birthday party for council member Brown. Brown and her two daughters are charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and and according to a release provided by the Department of Justice, that's the information they gave us. Now, WCNC Charlotte, we were able to confirm one of those loans, more than $20,000, was forgiven through the Paycheck Protection Program, also known as PPP, for a business registered to Brown. So early this morning, there was a press conference that Councilmember Brown held. Here is that full press conference right now. Let's take a listen in.
Good morning. Today I sit before you as a public servant, a mother, a woman of faith, not broken, not silenced, but resolved. The allegations made against me in the indictment are serious. I take them very seriously. But I will not be tried in the media. I will have my day in court where the truth belongs. But let me be clear. It's an effort to distract from the work I've done, the lives I've touched, and the community I represent. To my District 3 family, I see you, I serve you, I love you, and I will continue to fight for you. My commitment to justice, equity, and second chances remain unshaken. I trust the legal process, and I remain focused on what matters the most to people. Now, when I found out that there may have been some scrutiny in the application, I paid it back. I have one loan. $20,000, $833. $20,000, $833. When the application was processed, I paid it back. No one had to tell me to pay it back. When I found out that there may have been some stipulations in how the application was processed, I paid it back. Now, on the other hand, that's Hillbilly Barbecue that has $1.5 million that never went into the courtroom. They were able to pay it back civilly through a civil matter. Okay? So there's some PPP loans out there that just came up that never touched the courtroom. So if it's about justice and I paid it back, why are we here? Why are we here? I paid it back. On my own. No one had to tell me to do that. I paid it back.
That was the full 124.
I don't have 124. I paid $20,000 back. You're reading an indictment. I just made my statement.
The indictment says that you used those funds on a birthday party. Is that the case?
I paid $20,000 back.
Did you originally use the funds that were provided for you for that birthday party?
I paid it back. The funds that I got was $20,833, and I paid it back.
And Councilmember Brown, it sounds like, are you planning to stay on council?
Why would I resign? I haven't been convicted of anything. I was elected for the people, by the people. The people would have to remove me out of the seat.
The feds also allege that your daughters were involved with this. Did you fill out any applications on their behalf?
I'm not going to speak on behalf of anybody that's not here.
What do you say to the residents of District 3 who are seeing this in the news? They're well aware of your history. How can they have confidence in your ability to continue to serve and your desire to continue to serve in the future?
My whole platform is based off second chances. It's based off transparency and truth. I've did several interviews with you. I always come forward. I'm always accountable. There's nothing to hide. My residents know who I am. They know my history. They know who I am. They know my history. My history is not a secret. I live my life on my history. There are women that I meet at the door that come home with just a bag in their hand and they live in my house. The feds sent them there. Did they tell you that? I house their women. They live with me. They're in one of my homes right now. This is the work that I do. It's who I am.
You call the attack political. What do you think the motivation is if it's political? Reason for it.
I paid the money back. No one had to tell me to pay it back. If we're seeking justice and I paid back the $20,833 that I'm accountable for, then why are we here? Why are we here?
So you got to put it in perspective.
If it's in the matter of justice and we're seeking justice and I paid it back, again, why are we here?
Councilmember, you mentioned earlier, you said when you were kind of first made aware of the questions about the relief money, and when you paid it back, can you walk us through a little bit of the timeline of like when you first heard about the concerns and when you paid it back?
I didn't say I was aware of any questions. I just paid it back. I paid it back. It was done by a third party. The application was submitted by a third party. So what I accept responsibility for is maybe not scrutinize the application the way that I should have.
And this is going to be a trial, so we're not going to get too much into the
it's definitely going to be a trial. But I do want to say this. When a person has something to hide, they don't send out a press release. They don't show up and answer questions. And so I've done this my entire life. I travel the world. I have a national footprint fighting for women that are needing second chances, third chances, fourth chances, and fifth chances. What I'm saying to you is, when I found out there may have been any discrepancy in the application that was submitted by a third party, I paid it back. That's not in the paperwork that you have, but I paid it back, and it was submitted.
The feds say the money was supposed to be used for payroll. Did you use that money for payroll?
Again, this is going to be for trial, so I've asked her not to answer these questions.
The feds say you spent $3,500 on a venue for your birthday party, $5,000 in catering, $2,300 for photography, a rented throne, and a horse-drawn carriage.
So,
what was that party?
Same answer on that one. This is not the time for us to try the case.
And the reason I came here today is because I've been very supportive of Ms. Brown. I've paid her thousands of dollars over the years for working with my company. So any insinuation that she took some money from a PPP loan when she has 3 jobs, she worked for Uber, she worked for Lyft, she worked for American Airlines. So to say that this money that was related to this PPP loan was exclusively used to pay for stuff like that, I personally gave her donations for that. So, you know, the last thing I want to say is I come here today to support her because we're talking about something that happened during a time when everyone was filing these loans, right? And the only mistake that she made was she didn't scrutinize it the way that she should have scrutinized it. And once she became aware, once they made her aware, I'm going to say that. She didn't say it, I said it. Once they made her aware that it was some problems, just like you coming and questioning right now, when she was questioned about it, she paid it back. No questions asked because she accepted responsibility of the fact that she did not scrutinize the application the way she did. She didn't fill out the application. So the fact that she didn't fill out the application and there was some things that may have been put on that may not have been correct, she's not saying it, I'm saying it. The reality is that this was 5 years before she ever thought about running for office. So today she's staying here as a person that did more than Hillbilly Bob could ever done. That company that didn't get indicted, right? She paid it back. what justice is to seek to get the money back. The other company, they sitting over here, and it has, I don't care about the politics or none of that. We talking about people's lives. And to sit here and do an attack on this black woman right here, who paid it back. That's what we want, right? When you go to somebody and you say, hey, this right here, money may not have been obtained the correct way, right? We need you to pay this back, right? Everybody has the opportunity. IRS has a way to pay that back on their website, right? So you pay it back. Now tell me one person who have paid it back that got indicted other than Tijuana Brown. You won't find it. Because the fact of the matter is there are people who have strategically planned to do this. Did they tell the grand jury that she paid it back? We don't know, but they sure didn't tell you. It's sure not in this indictment right here that she paid it back. Wouldn't you say that that's something that was important for the public to know? So we're going to let the public be the judge of this.
The feds say that you certified the application, though, under perjury. So why are you saying that a third party submitted the application?
I'm not going to answer that question, Mr. Bruno.
When did you pay it back?
It was paid back a few months ago.
A few months ago, okay. After you became aware of the investigation?
Correct.
But it's clear that no one told me to pay it back, though. I paid it back on my own.
Why did you originally seek the funding?
I had a business to seek the funding. Yeah, I was starting a new business.
The TCC collection?
TC swimwear.
Let's not get into the specifics too much. You know, we don't want to give our entire playbook to the other side here. We're getting ready for trial.
What's the timeline? We know what happens next in terms of the trial?
Not yet. That'll be a schedule that'll be set. The indictment was just released this morning, so there'll be an initial appearance, and we'll be pleading not guilty at the initial appearance tomorrow.
Absolutely, 110%.
Initial appearance tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
I would ask that the U.S. Attorney, and I'm making this request on behalf of the community, give Ms. Brown the same consideration that was given to these
Hillbilly
companies.
Barbecue?
Yeah, Hillbilly Barbecue. Like, she has a right to equal justice under the 14th Amendment, right? So equal justice for me would be for her to get the same consideration that they got who didn't pay it back. But they got to go through civil court and agree to pay it back incrementally. Ms. Brown paid it all the way back. So I would ask, when you speak to the U.S. Attorney's Office, to relay this request that in the interest of justice, Ms. Brown 14th Amendment right be protected and she be given the same opportunity that Hillbilly Barbecue got.
Have you heard
And
from any,
there've been a number of other civil settlements. It's not just Hillbilly Barbecue.
have you heard from any colleagues since you sent out the
My
news
colleagues are very supportive of me.
And can y'all help? I'm just trying to understand, because the indictment talks about 124.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. Right there, you're watching the press conference from earlier regarding charges against Charlotte City Councilwoman Tijuana Brown. We want to shift away from this to live coverage on CBS 8 there in San Diego. We've been reporting on this story since the very beginning. A small plane crash in a neighborhood in San Diego. This is our content partners there. It's CBS 8 in San Diego. Let's take you there live. Let's listen in.
This is the home that received the most impact at 10297 Sample Street. Then the entire block was impacted by this. About 10 homes. San Diego Police Department sending out this latest post on social media confirming that at least two people are dead. They believe those were two occupants on board that Cessna when it crashed. They say 8 others are injured. Initially, we were told that no one had to be transported on the ground away from the scene to the hospital. Some of these injuries we have been able to confirm confirm independently are from people that were rushing in the chaos and injured themselves. So that's the latest update from San Diego Police. Yes, there was 3:45 this morning when this Cessna coming from Wichita crashed into this neighborhood, which is military members, members of the Navy that live in this community. 100 had to be evacuated. They were taken to Miller Elementary, where there's a staging point, and they're getting some resources that they desperately need right now.
Yeah, right now, Miller Elementary is where many families we've watched gather over the past several hours. So now here we are about 7 hours later, and many families left in the early morning hours while they were still sleeping in their pajamas with young children. No food with them, no diapers. So all of that is available to you if you are impacted by this at Miller Elementary School. They were quick to set up those booths and get those resources to these families. So sailors certainly impacted, many of them also deployed right now.
We know there are several investigators there at the scene. We've been waiting for this update. We were told it was going to start at 11 a.m. We understand that they are taking to the podium, taking to the microphones to give us the latest update on this tragic scene, this plane crash in Tierra Santa. Let's listen in.
For the city of San Diego. This morning at approximately 3:47 a.m., we received a call of an airplane down. At that time, we responded our units with the priority of rescue, saving lives, and preserving property. Next, I'm going to have my Assistant Chief, Dan Eddy, come up and explain the operations that took place moving forward from that point.
Morning, everyone. Crews arrived on scene just after 3:47, about 3:55 this morning. What they found was behind you, the scene that you see behind me right now. We had a plane that had come through this neighborhood, taken out one home. We had one home on fire, multiple cars on fire going down the street. We initiated what's called an Alert 5, which is an upgraded for a plane off the runway. We started the Alert 5, followed that with a second alarm to ensure we had all the units here. It's 3:45 in the morning. Our worry was the fact that people are home, people are living in their houses, and we want to ensure that we had all that done. We started initiating the fire attack while at the same time going inside each structure behind us and ensuring that they were cleared out and we had no one inside those structures. Once we had an all clear on those structures, back into the street on the cars that were on fire, because for us, our main concern is ensuring that we get the citizens out and get those rescues complete. Crews did a great job working with San Diego PD to start evacuating the neighborhood and with the military to ensure that we are doing the right things to work with the military on that. Great coordination by all. We were able to get knocked down on the fire, start to work through and start to do secondary searches of the houses behind us and ensuring that everyone was out of those areas. We started an evacuation area to the northwest to one of the elementary schools and started to ensure that we had everyone out of those homes. After that was done, we started our recovery effort, which you see behind us. We're holding the scene for FAA, NTSB to ensure that they can get the investigation done and no evidence is tampered with or moved at all. Once that is complete and their investigation is done, then we'll start moving back through and working with the military and San Diego PD to clear out the neighborhood and ensure that everything is complete. I'm going to pass it over to San Diego PD right now, Lieutenant Easter.
Hello. We received the phone call or the incident, and our officers, we responded and conducted evacuations in this area. Right now, this is still an active scene, so roads are closed. If you're looking for updates, monitor our social media accounts, X, Facebook, Instagram. We will continue to provide updates on road closures and the conditions as this incident continues. On that note, I'm going to pass it on to Captain Robert Healy.
Spell your name, sir, before you go, please.
Easter, like the holiday.
Hey, good morning. Captain Bob Healy, Naval Base San Diego Commanding Officer. Our primary objective remains the safety and security of our military families who live here in this neighborhood. Over the last couple hours, we've been able to connect with them to make sure that they are taken care of, and most of them have gone down to Miller Elementary, which is our evacuation site. Very pleased with the community response in addition to the city and local officials to provide all of the services that they need. Primarily, our job is to get them back into their homes as soon as possible, and we're working with Liberty Military Housing, who oversees this complex, to do just that. Hopefully, we expect people outside of this general area to get in by tonight, and then certainly this area will be down for some time based on NTSB investigation. We have continued to communicate through our Family Information Call Center at 844-523-2025. Liberty Military Housing has also released red flag messages to the families so they have the latest and greatest information. The base continues to message via our internal communication system as well as social media. Again, just want to thank the local community for supporting the military families and everyone for all that you've done. With that, I want to turn it over to Councilmember Capillo.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Raul Campillo. I represent City Council District 7, which includes the Tierra Santa neighborhood and Murphy Canyon neighborhood. San Diego is home to one of the largest installments of United States military active service members and veterans. And in this particular neighborhood, we had dozens of active duty families that are suffering, that suffered some injuries, and their homes have been destroyed. But the City of San Diego, our employees, along with the military and the school district, have been well coordinated from the early morning until now, and we will be throughout the rest of this tragedy. With the very sad loss of life from the plane, we know that there was many miracles and many heroic actions from our police department, from our firefighters, and the military members themselves. I heard stories over at the school just near us about military families helping military families out of their home, jumping out of windows, avoiding fire. These are families that San Diego values, we're proud of, and we're going to continue to support these military families who are from all over the country but live right here in San Diego. As you can see, the damage behind us is incredibly significant, was life-threatening, and thank God nobody on the ground was killed. We're going to continue to support them through our City of San Diego personnel, our first responders, and I really encourage people to donate, to call in to our offices at City Council, the Mayor's office, to find out how to volunteer and help in ways like that. These people are going to be recovering for a long, long time, and the City of San Diego is going to be here to support them. Thank you for being here, and I know we're going to take some questions.
Just a few questions. Yes, I have a question regarding the recent tweet from the San Diego Police Department. It says that there are 2 dead now and 8 injured. Can you confirm that? And are the 2 dead from the plane?
At least. So that is what we have at this time. That's what we release. And yes, that's why we put that out. So that can be confirmed at this time. That is the latest update. And there will be a press release that will come out later on with that information as well.
Can you say that again? Can you say it?
So to confirm, 2 dead at this time. And what was the rest of that?
And I'm sorry, 8 injured?
Yes, confirmed 2 dead and 8 injured at this time. We've lost 2 souls.
And of those who was on the plane, who was on the ground?
That is still under the investigation at this time.
Do you know how many people were on the plane?
We're still discovering that.
And the people are injured, what are the state of the state of these people that are injured? Critical state, minor injuries?
Right now, they're still being evaluated.
I can step in on that.
Oh, okay.
On the injuries that we had the 2 confirmed fatalities right now. We do have 6 that were injured. 1 was transported of the 6. The other 5 had minor injuries, were treated on scene and released on their own. So right now, that's what we have right now. The investigation is behind me on the fatalities is still going through.
Were all the deaths on the plane?
At this time, we don't know because we still have to identify who we have on the fatalities right now. But on the plane itself, that's what we'll do. That's why NTSB is here, working with other federal agencies to identify who's on the plane.
Were the injuries for all that were on the ground?
Some of the injuries were people that were on the ground. All the injuries that we treated were people that were treated at the evacuation center. There was no one transported from scene. I can tell you this, the military families did a phenomenal job as firefighters were getting on scene to help one another, get people out of houses and going. I cannot commend them enough for what they did on scene. For us on scene, we did not transport anyone off the scene. Everything was done at the evacuation centers for any of the medical needs that were done.
Can I just clarify?
1 person was transported, minor injuries was transported from the evacuation center.
So, sorry, can I just clarify on the numbers real quick? Because we have, like you said, 2 dead, and then there's been varying numbers with the injured. So
yeah.
If I understand it, it's 5 people were taken for, I was told, smoke inhalation to the hospital, and then we have someone who was injured climbing out of a window. So that would be 6, and then people treated for very minor injuries at the scene. So that would make it 8. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry. It is 8 total. I was thinking 8 in my mind of the 2 fatalities that were in there with the other one. So yes, it is 8 total on there.
Sir, for those of us that are out of town, can you explain to us a little bit about the community here? Is this temporary housing for the military families, or is this permanent housing for them?
So this is permanent. Yeah, if you want to sort of.
great question. So this is a military family housing neighborhood, and we have over about 2,300 family homes that are here in San Diego, and they work at various installations around the Metro San Diego region. Well, they are here as long as they're stationed here in the San Diego area, so it could be a year to many years.
Can we get confirmation on those numbers again, like to have it accurate and how it is, because the 86 got mixed up?
So how about this? What number did you just say right there?
Well, I don't want to.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's okay. All right. So we had 8 injured and we had 2 fatalities is where we're currently at right now. So 8 injured, 2 fatalities. One of those injuries was transported. That's our current numbers. We're still assessing. Our main goal as the fire department, especially with the evacuation center, as people who moved here, it could be hours later that people start feeling symptoms or start feeling what they're doing. So we have EMS teams with them the entire time. So that number could change as the day goes on too. There could have been something in the last 2 minutes as I walked up here. But in this current point right now, what we're going to do is follow those individuals that have been evacuated and make sure that everybody's okay throughout the whole thing.
Can you have the NTSB here? Do you know?
The NTSB, I believe, is en route right now. FAA is currently investigating behind us right now as they're walking through the scene.
How many homes were destroyed? How many homes were actually destroyed?
So the one permanently destroyed is this one right here behind us. We have damage to multiple homes down to the west of us on the street. That damage will be assessed. Our main concern on that damage, I don't know the full extent of the damage because our job is to preserve the scene so NTSB can come in and do the investigation. We removed everybody from the scene, blocked it off right now. We will have better numbers on the full damage of homes after NTSB comes in and starts doing their investigation. It is just this block right now, but we have a large debris field that covers multiple streets.
There was dense fog this morning. What do we know? There's a clipped power line that's being reported. What do we know as this plane was landing toward Montgomery?
So as I came in this morning, when I came in this morning at about 4 o'clock, there was very dense fog as we came in. And some of the individuals are here were the same time. It was dense fog throughout the whole plateau that we had up here. We do have a clipped power line behind us. NTSB and FAA are looking into that to see if that was part of the problem as it came in. They will have a better understanding of that as they do the investigation.
Where are the military families going to be staying in the meantime? I know that you guys had mentioned they might be able to come back as early as today, but where are they going to be staying, especially in this destroyed home?
Yeah, we are actively working with all military families affected, specifically within this region, because they may be out of their homes for a while. So we're actively collaborating with Liberty Military Housing, as well as the Red Cross and others down at Miller Elementary to put them in proper lodging overnight. So that may be hotels. Some of them have chosen to stay with family and friends, so there's a lot of different options. But we will ensure that they have proper lodging tonight and all the support they need.
And the Navy will be footing that bill for them, or Liberty Housing?
We will properly care for them. Yes, ma'am.
Is this Navy-owned property, or is that correct to say?
No, it's a San Diego jurisdiction here.
Okay, so but it's Navy-owned housing.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
And
You learned about the airplane. There was a lot of talk. It was from the Midwest. Can you share what you've learned about the plane itself and possibly the people aboard?
No, all we had was that it was launched out of the Midwest and was here for San Diego. The FAA or NTSB might have more factual information. I don't have a wing number, any of those other things that are on there. What we know is it was launched from the Midwest, was en route to here, and then we got the call at 3:45 in the morning.
Was Montgomery Field closed at that time? I mean, Air Tower controlled?
Air Tower was controlled, but they have the ability to come in with it being closed by being able to radio in and open up the lights on the runway.
There's a report that the weather system was not working, and the air traffic control told the pilot coming in that it wasn't working. Have you heard that? Do you know anything about that?
I know nothing about that. I know the rescue side of it, and we came through. Hopefully FAA or NTSB will have that answer for you.
Do you believe that anybody on the plane survived?
I don't know on that point right now. I can tell if you look behind me right now, I don't know on that point, but no, I don't believe so.
Do you have the gender of the victims so far?
No, I don't.
Do any of the injured are from this house?
Any of the injured are from this house behind. I can't really say if they're injured from this house behind. I have to keep that private.
Were all of the homes occupied?
I believe all the homes were occupied. We did searches of every single home as we came through. This military housing area that is here is constantly occupied all the time. It's a very busy area, but I believe all of them were occupied.
How many passengers were in the plane?
We don't know how many passengers. I don't know. If you look at the plane, the path that it took behind me here, you can see that its trajectory came through this direction, took out the front of that house, and it ended up here to the right behind me.
When I walked around, I didn't find any big bodies body of the plane? I saw like a little bit of fiberglass over there on Santos Street, and then of course this panel out here. But is there any other part of the plane that what parts of the plane are still out here?
There's plane everywhere. Our debris field is very large. That's why we have multiple blocks that are blocked off right now. As you guys would expect, when you have something that large coming in with that amount of speed, we're going to have a lot of throw that goes every which direction. Our goal with this is to fly our UAS, which you saw, which are unmanned aerial, over the top, to ensure we're looking over the tops of the houses. We're looking everywhere in our neighborhood for any type of debris. I can't give you a field because we're still searching ourselves to find out what that footprint is.
So you don't know if there's a big part of the body that's out there somewhere?
That's not for my investigation. We're just looking through it and seeing.
Can you tell us how dangerous it was with that jet fuel? And also, I believe you have one vehicle that firefighters couldn't put out. I don't know if that was an electrical vehicle. Can you just tell us the challenges you faced?
Yeah, so challenges on scene like this are just like anything else. They're incredibly dynamic, right? As we're coming in, we have a plane that has crashed into a residential area. So our goal on this is we treat this a lot like a wildfire. We're going to division it off. We're going to section it off. We're going to send multiple units to different areas. We're actually going to throw the world at this too. We're going to bring every medical unit that we can and every engine that we can because we want to ensure the safety of the citizens that are here, right? When crews first got on scene, we had multiple cars on fire. We had the house on fire behind us as it was going down the street. The car that was down the left, I don't know whether it was an electrical car or not. I just know that it was stubborn as can be, and no matter what we could do, we could not get that fire to finally go out as we were going through it. But when crews first arrived, we did have dense fog, so as they came down, you can imagine the scene of what they saw with what was behind them, a house fully involved with a plane through the middle of the street. So it was, I commend the crews, I commend the fire department, the police department, the military that came out here, the citizens themselves too, because anybody, it's tragic to see that behind you. Whether you're involved in it, and I feel for the people that are in the plane that had, that were a part of this, but whether you're involved in it or not, just normal citizens that are here, they're gonna remember this for the rest of their lives, but they did what they always do. The citizens of San Diego are amazing. They came out and covered for one another and took care of one another.
How many families were evacuated?
I don't know how many families were evacuated right now. We can get you that number lately.
Can you describe what it was like for first responders when they first got here, and what was their priority as soon as they got to the scene?
So our main goal when we are on scene is life.
Okay, that is Assistant Fire Chief Dan Addy, who's been answering a lot of questions, giving a big update here. We also heard from Lieutenant Easter, Captain Bob Healy from Navy Base San Diego as well. The big takeaway from our vantage point, since we've been reporting on this since this happened here this morning for about 6 hours now, is that it's 2 confirmed fatalities that were in that airplane. 8 total people
back into the middle of the street and started focusing on the cars, property, right? Life is our #1 priority, so we're going to go for those first and ensure that we have any sort of rescues that we need to initiate and get them out. Those crews did that with multiple units down both sides of the street, and then you never know. We could have stuff thrown in both directions, and as we go through those directions, we put multiple engines and trucks down our side streets to search those streets too.
Was that home occupied?
The home was occupied at the time, yes.
Do you know how many people were in there?
No, I don't.
And what happened? What did you hear about how they got out?
So what I heard is just like anything. It was, for me, it's a little bit of a miracle, right? A plane hits your house. I don't know exactly how they got out, but I do know that neighbors helped them get out, and that's the beauty of what I love in this neighborhood too. And military looking out for one another. They did exactly what they did to try to help each other. I believe so.
And that this is a military community.
Yeah.
How crucial is the fact that they're trained for emergencies, they're trained for complicated things? Do you think that played a role in making sure that they were helping each other and making sure that everybody was safe?
I think it absolutely does. I think any sort of that background that you have behind you, right, to help you stay calm in a stressful situation, just like the military, just like San Diego PD or any other public safety, get help. And so as we came into this neighborhood, you could see that. You could see the love for one another in this neighborhood.
When you say it was a family, do you know if there were children in this home?
No, I don't.
Can you confirm the time of the impact again?
We got the first call at 3:47 a.m. is when the first call came into our dispatch center.
I have 2 questions. Does it appear that the plane hit the house actually or clipped it? Or
no, that'll be for NTSB to decide when they get here and see if it actually hit the house or not. That's not for us to investigate on it. When my crews first got on scene, they did a great job to just attack the fire and get after it.
And did you guys see when you're on scene that the jet fuel, was it in flames just rolling down the street as the cars ignited?
I can tell you when I got on scene, you could see about 40 feet to 50 feet ahead of you. So if it's rolling down the street, I don't know whether it was rolling down the street. What I do know is when I got here, I saw multiple cars on fire, and that area was just getting knocked down by our crews.
Is there any timetable of when we could hear from the FAA? Because we've been here since early this morning, and we heard that they would come to speak with us sometime soon, but now we're in our 3rd press briefing, and we still haven't heard from them?
I don't, not for me to say, I don't know. I do tell you this much behind me that they are investigating behind, and I will try to get someone back here. We'll work with our PAO to get someone back here for you.
When do you think it would be safe for people to come back in the strong smell?
We did have a clipped power line off our main line out there. We still have good power from SUG&E has assured us that we still have proper power running through the area through here, but yes, it was a main line that was hit.
Approximately how many houses were evacuated? Just a number?
I don't know. I don't know on that side. It was multiple. We evacuated everything south of here. Every single house south was evacuated. 2 blocks west was evacuated all the way to the 15, and 1 block north was evacuated to us. For us, we wanted to make sure that we had everybody out, so if anything did start to grow or anything changed, that everybody was out of their house.
Someone described it like a movie when they arrived. Can you kind of give us a description of what it felt like, smelled like? It's not Hollywood.
You smell this? You smell this right behind me right now? What you smell right now of that burning, that's what you're coming into. You smell that off-gassing as it's coming here with the sun and everything starting to push up. It's, for us, for public safety, we're used to that smell, right? We're used to those types of things that are out there. For the public, I'm sure it was. If you just look at, if you only look 50 feet behind me, your mind would start thinking of things anyway. So imagine that when it was actually occurring. Yes, it was chaotic.
This is not the first time that we have a plane crash. Compared to the other ones that have been more to eastward, and this being in a community, I mean, how do you rank it?
I can't rank, I won't rank anything. What I will say is the amount of incredible work that is done by first responders that come out here, whether it be a plane that's out in the middle of nowhere, whether we have brush fires or anything else. I can't rank a plane crash, because to me that's, my heart couldn't let me do that, right? Type thing. What I do know is that when we came out of here, the best outcome that we had for individuals that are on the ground, I feel for the family that is in that plane and what they're going through right now. I can only imagine that. But on the ground itself and the individuals here in military housing, we had one of the best outcomes that I could possibly say that came from this, because when I was coming on scene, I did not expect that same outcome as I got here.
Okay guys, that's going to be enough. That we're going to provide more information electronically. We don't have another media briefing planned yet, but we'll let you guys know. But like I said, we'll provide more information electronically as it develops. We can't speak for FAA, we can't speak for NTSB. I'm sure they have their own public affairs officers that you can reach out to. But again, we'll let you guys know. That's one of the reasons why it's evacuated, to keep people away from the smells and whatever hazardous issues there may be here. So it'll, as the chief mentioned, it'll be evacuated and cordoned off for quite a while. So again, we'll release information electronically. Thank you.
We know that this was a heroic act for many neighbors. It was neighbors helping other neighbors.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. We just got a update from authorities there in San Diego as far as that small plane crash there that happened this morning. You're watching coverage from CBS 8 there in San Diego. That is our content partners there. Again, we do know 2 were killed, 8 injured in that small plane crash in San Diego. All right, so we are following a few stories right now. We're waiting for a press conference in Washington, D.C. After 2 Israeli embassy staffers were killed yesterday evening. We're waiting to get an update in a press conference. And over in St. Louis, we've been tracking this as well. Deadly storms there in the Midwest. St. Louis getting hit hard. That is St. Louis's Mayor Kara Spencer speaking at the podium right now, giving updates. They've been doing this pretty frequently this week. Let's take a listen in to this press conference that's happening right now.
That their building is already condemned if they have a red sticker on it. I mean, eventually it could be. How long do people have before the condemnation process restarts?
That's an excellent question, and we recognize there has been a significant amount of confusion on this, and we are working to improve the communications on that. That deployment of information will be happening this afternoon. We're getting it out as quickly as possible. Our intent is not to scare people and certainly not to punish people who have already been so impacted here, and we are pivoting immediately to get that more clear to folks.
How long do they have, though? One person told me they thought they only had 10 days.
To get out. So I don't know the answer to that. I think there are specific circumstances, whether you're a renter, it depends on your rights as far as your own specific lease. I know that Legal Services of Eastern Missouri is working to also mobilize some folks on the ground to help educate people on their specific rights. It's not a universal component here, whether or not you own or rent, and some of those things are very specific to an individual circumstances and their relationship with the property owner. So it is complicated. The city is working to streamline and universalize what we are communicating to property owners and the folks that would enter those properties, and that's going to be coming out today.
There's no timeline for resuming the condemnation process, or is there?
There should be. I don't know the specifics to that, but we are working on getting that solid today as well.
Mallory Foxton.
Yeah.
Can I just explain, whenever we've been out talking with people, there's a lot of confusion of what FEMA can provide versus what the city and the state can provide.
There is a lot of confusion. We're working through that right now. The city is deploying all resources that it has on this effort. That is very clear. We have folks working 12-hour days every single day just to get the work done. We are looking to FEMA to come and help us fund that effort. It's not something that the city has the financial backing to run for the long haul. So how this is going to play out, what the city, the state, and the federal government can come to the table is exactly the work that we're working through right now.
A few more questions, David, Channel 4.
Yeah, wanted to double check. Maybe this is best for Chief Tracy, but we've had viewers reaching out about shots fired in North and West City. One person reached out saying that there needs to be a ceasefire. How aware of the police department is this? Is this happening? Are there a lot of shots being fired?
Well, even before this tornado hit, we're always monitoring shots fired. We have ShotSpotter. We respond to all calls, whether it's calls for service through 911 or through ShotSpotter. So that's been happening before this tornado. We look at every case. We do a canvass. We look for witnesses, and we make sure that nobody is shot so we can render first aid if there is someone, make sure we get them to the hospital. So this is not, let's not conflate the issue of the tornado with shots fired in our city. This has been an issue, but over the years with a good plan in place, they have been reduced, but we certainly got a long way to go. So we'll always investigate it the same way that we do outside this zone. I've told you about the patrol plan that we have in place. We are not losing the rest of the city. And because of the patrol plan to 12 hours, we actually probably have more coverage in the districts as we're doing this area. So we're going to respond in the same way that we do in a professional manner to try to make sure that those are shooting firearms, that we can try to get the trigger pullers off the street to keep our community safer.
Can I say something on that just real quickly? I just want to add, I and my team are in the affected area all day, every day. I feel safe. I feel safe. My team feels safe. We have not felt threatened. I just want to make sure that folks know that we are taking safety and security very seriously, and it continues to be an area that has challenges in that regard, no doubt. But at the same time, it is an area that, largely speaking, I personally feel safe in this community. So these are neighborhoods. These are communities where people live.
I just want to add one more thing to that. And as I take a look at the report, the CompStat reports that you can see online, although we had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that ends the report for the week. If you look at this area, crime did not go up in this area as well. So you'll see that report that's coming out. It'll continue. It's something we monitor. We still do our CompStat. We still do our crime meetings. Everybody thinks continues. This is happening, but we can do both. And that's the type of thing, and my hat's off to the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, the support by the mayor, support by the governor, and the great work that's being done by 911 operators, call takers, our civilian personnel, and obviously our policemen and women in uniform that are out here doing this every day. And that's why we're keeping this area safe and the rest of the city safe. And if you look at the reports, crime is still, it has not gone up this week. And I'm monitoring all week long, and I'll be able to give you an update when this week ends, but I'm looking at it every single day.
Hold on, Channel 5. Hold on, Channel. Ellie, you've already had a couple questions. Hold in at Channel 5.
I have a two-part question here for you, Mayor. One, are there any environmental concerns? Obviously, a lot of these are older homes, may have asbestos, may have lead paint. And the second part of my question here is the city concerned that the disaster relief could be denied by the federal government? FEMA said yesterday there are still 17 applications waiting on the president's desk he hasn't signed.
The question about whether or not they're contaminations, absolutely. We're handing out masks. We've been deploying them. We are encouraging residents to exercise extreme caution, especially when going into buildings. You can just feel it in your lungs. Yes, absolutely, we have concerns about contamination in the air. So please, everyone, exercise extreme caution and use the PPE. Number two, do I have concerns about FEMA? Yes. I mean, look, defunding the areas of federal government that we so badly need to make our communities function well is a huge, huge problem when it comes to this and a whole host of things that the city relies on the federal government for. Do I have concerns? Yes. Do I have confidence that we are doing everything we can? Absolutely. Do I have confidence that our governor and our local electeds, our senators and our congressmen are doing everything possible? Yes, I do. And we are marching forward because that is the only thing we can do, and we're marching forward with as much strength as we have, and I have confidence in that.
Mayor, have we had reports of looting?
Looting? I think there have been a few reports of that, but to be honest, I am incredibly proud of the response from the community here. People are coming together to protect their blocks, their community, their neighbors, and it is overwhelming the amount of goodwill that the community is showing in this extremely difficult time. Anybody else?
Dana? Yeah, a follow-up to Chief Tracy. Have you seen, so we talked about crime hasn't gone up. Have you seen an increase in ShotSpotter activations in these affected areas?
No, right now, I'll still have to evaluate. I can get back an answer through Mitch for you. We'll evaluate that. I can give you an answer on it, but they asked me out cold. I know that we're monitoring shots fired, people being shot, non-fatal shootings, fatal shootings throughout the area, throughout the city. So I can give you an answer on that. But through the specific area, if you're talking about the impact zone, that goes through 2 different districts. But I can parse that out for you and give that answer to you. Okay?
Chief Tracy. Thank you guys very much for your Cam's the last one.
Okay, Chief Tracy. I noticed that there are some state troopers at some of the non-working lights. Is this precautionary, or are they there because they've had some issues with those people running the lights or not being traffic?
Listen, we've had 4-way stop signs going because of the power outages since the beginning. I'm so happy with the community. There's minimal accidents that have happened because of that. People have complied. The one accident I was able to talk about was early in the morning. A couple of mornings ago, our officers actually were hit broadside in the side on Kings Highway or Page Boulevard. I don't have the exact address. There's a lot of information going on. But it's been minimal. But as we've brought down and got power at these places and got a lot of these intersections going, there's some major intersections that now, because people can pick up speed because of getting through these other lights that are working, we've asked the Missouri Highway Patrol to cover a few areas for us as mutual aid. And you know what? Great partners, they've come in to do that because we want to make sure as people pick up speed as lights are going. And then even when they were working one intersection, electricity came on and I was able to move them to another intersection. So they're working hand in hand. That's the way it should be. So thank you.
David, we'll end on David, guys. We have another briefing tomorrow.
We're just trying to get some information. The command center has been here basically from the get-go, but we have noted, and some people have reached out noting that the SEMA vehicle has been here and then it left and it came back. Is that unit mobile? Is that supposed to be going out of the community? Is it supposed to leave? Can you talk about who authorizes it to leave? Who authorizes it to come back? Like, how does that work?
Okay. Right now, the St. Louis Fire Department is operating the movement of the SEMA vehicle. We took it back to headquarters. We did some updates to it, brought it back, so it's on site.
Thank you guys very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. I noticed I saw it because, I mean, I think...
You know what, there was way too many intersections. I was being minimized.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertovan. That was St. Louis city leaders giving an update on the deadly storms that have swept through the Midwest there. We've seen some of the scenes there. Tragic situation there in St. Louis. We actually have a reporter there on the ground, Walker Lawson, who has been helping out with our sister station, our content partners, KSDK, there, showing us the damage throughout the week. So, again, we got an update there in that press conference. All right. Again, thank you for watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. It's been a busy afternoon. As I promised, we've had a lot going on, and we still have more news here to come on WCNC Plus Live Impact News. Do we? Where do we want to go now, Carlene? Okay, let's go to San Diego. So San Diego, we had just got an update on the small plane crash. Let me read you that update. So again, we've been covering this. A small plane crashed into a neighborhood in the Tierra Santa early this morning, according to San Diego police. Now, we got an update. Let me make sure I get this correct. From San Diego police, 100 residents evacuated after the aircraft crashed near Sculpin and Santo Road. At least 2 confirmed dead, 8 injured, 10 buildings damaged. Now, CBS 8, our content partners here in San Diego, have been doing wall-to-wall coverage there on the aftermath. Let's take a listen in to what's happening right now. Again, this is CBS 8 in San Diego.
The schools will only be shut down for a day, but we'll continue to keep you updated as the story progresses.
Abby, incredible outpouring of support we're seeing there. So many organizations and helpers and volunteers coming together in a time of need here in San Diego County, stepping up to give these people the basic necessities they need to live. You heard one man ran out in his underwear. That's all he had on to get his family and rescue his friends, and it was that chaotic a scene.
And Abby, I'm curious, I know we checked in with you earlier, and there weren't that many boots. I mean, they were quick to set up that first initial round. What have you seen? Are people coming there to drop off all those donations? I mean, the clothes, the food, are these members of our community showing up there doing this?
You can just see this support continue to grow and expand. We have people dropping off donations. We have, again, our military organizations who are trained to do this and respond in crisis and disasters like this. So when the families come, and we're starting to see more and more families come trickle in throughout the day, they check in at a booth, and then that's when we have the American Red Cross. They check in with the families to figure out what it is that they need. Do they need shelter? Do they need clothes? Do they need food? Do they need childcare? And that is where you have this organized effort. You know, we're talking about the chaos of what happened this morning. And I talked to a mother, and she says, I just came here and I'm just so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. And I said, please just check in with this nice woman right here, and she will get you taken care of and help you through this process, because this is why we have our support here to help so many of these families.
Great support network here in San Diego. All right, thank you for that, Abby. Sure appreciate it. One of the more touching responses we had heard today from a residents was it looked like carnage when they stepped out and they saw what was in front of them, and then they saw all that help coming in. That was an interview that David Gottfredson got. We're going to touch base with David Gottfredson on the other side of a break.
When you call the experts at Zero Res in almost zero time,
all right,
you can
you're watching
enjoy
Live
carpets
Impact
that
News
stay
on
cleaner.
WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Yes, that was me hopping back into my chair. That happens from time to time.
This is live. This is
it's Live
unfiltered.
Impact News.
Sometimes we move.
I had to stand for a little bit. I've been sitting for a while. So again, thank you for buckling up on this news journey with us. It has been a busy afternoon. A lot has been happening. So we want to check in with our forecast. That's important. We want to keep you informed as we head into the afternoon, later into the afternoon, about our forecast. So here is Majestic Storm with your full forecast.
Well, good Thursday afternoon to you. I'm WCNC meteorologist Majestic Storm, and today is going to be another gorgeous day. We'll have plenty of sunshine. Temperatures will be a little cooler than yesterday, but really the big element in our weather forecast today will be those gusty winds, especially up towards the mountains. We'll get into everything, but as we're heading into our weekend, it's not just any weekend, but of course our Memorial Day weekend. So if you do have any plans, temperatures will drop into the 70s. We'll be holding on to 70s throughout the weekend and even into next week. Most of our weekend looks fantastic, but we are watching Monday and into Tuesday for our next best opportunity for more widespread rain. Let's talk about those temperatures though. Yesterday it was a warm one, wasn't it? Charlotte topped off at 86 degrees. Today we're forecasting 82. It's still going to be a nice day to get outside if you need a workout in your yard, or if you want to just get outside, maybe have some lunch. It's going to be enjoyable, but it will be windy, all right? Want to show you our day planner throughout the rest of the day. A little bit of cloud coverage out there earlier in the afternoon, continuing though to clear out very nicely. It's going to stay comfortable all throughout our Thursday. Let's take a look at those temperatures up towards our mountain counties out there towards Banner Elk. Temperatures are cooler, only 64. That's where you're going to top off today. 67 in Boone and Fleetwood. As we head a little bit more to the south, we're looking at Lenore now, 77 for your high, 78 across Hickory. As we're heading into the Charlotte metro area, temperatures will rise mainly into the lower end of the 80s, 82 for Charlotte and Shelby. Lincolnton also checking in at 82. It could be a good day for a pool day if your kids are coming home from school and want to do something fun, or I know a lot of kids are already out of school, so it might be a good day to have a pool day. We're looking at those temperatures now out towards Monroe, 83 degrees for you, and Lancaster about 87, so another warm one. Now the catch today in our forecast will definitely be those winds. Today the winds are moving in from the west. If you're going golfing, the wind is going to be a little defeating at times because it's not just going to be breezy, but some of those winds today could gust up to 30, even 35 miles an hour. That's around the Charlotte area. So if you do have something outside that might blow away or get damaged, make sure it's all tucked away and secure. Tomorrow those winds will be a little breezy at times, but they will die down. I want to stick with the forecast and talk about the winds still, because notice our mountain counties, that's where some of our winds today could gust 40 to even 50 miles an hour. So you'll definitely feel those winds. But even as we progress through the Charlotte metro area, it's going to be a little bit less windy, but still noticeable nonetheless today and even into tomorrow. Today is our last day where we'll see those daytime highs rise into the low 80s, and then we'll start to see those temperatures drop as we're heading into the weekend. But still very enjoyable over the weekend with those mid to upper 70s. Tuesday, 73 degrees for our high. Our average right now for this time of the year, it's 81 degrees. Another upside in our forecast is that it is going to be feeling very enjoyable when we're looking at those dew points. We're going to see them really only into the 40s and 50s for the next couple of days, and then into the 60s by the end of our weekend. For Memorial Day forecast, you can see our weekend ahead is going to be nice, but Sunday we'll start to see some rain chances return, especially as we head towards Monday though. Small chances on Sunday, maybe a sprinkle or two, and then Monday and into Tuesday, that's when our next storm system sets up, and that's when we think we could see our next round of more widespread rain move in. Here's a look at our 7-day forecast. Gorgeous over the next several days. Lots of fun events going on around town, so if you're heading out to any of them, it's going to be almost perfect weather. Windy today, and then we really won't have to worry about those rain showers returning until late Monday and into Tuesday. Have a great day.
And that's a look at the forecast. All right, so let's stay here. So let's talk about the National Black Radio Hall of Fame. And it's going to honor Charlotte's radio trailblazers. The event will honor several well-known and longtime radio broadcasters in Charlotte who have made a lasting impact in the industry, and we were able to speak with some folks. I'll leave that as a surprise. I always give it away, but we had that interview this morning on our stream from 7 to 9. Let's take a listen in.
Happening today, a huge celebration for some of Charlotte's most famous radio hosts. The Charlotte chapter of the National Black Radio Hall of Fame will hold its honors event tonight.
Some of the honorees include Grammy Award-winning artist Anthony Hamilton and radio trailblazer Chatty Hattie Leaper. Joining us this morning are two of the honorees for tonight's event and legends of Charlotte radio, Janine Davis of WBAV and BJ Murphy. Good morning to both of you. Thanks so much for getting up early to talk with us. Tell us about the Charlotte Black Radio Hall of Fame and the history behind it.
BJ, that's your cue.
Okay, all right. Well, National Black Radio Hall of Fame for the Charlotte chapter was initiated in 2022, and it was our way of commemorating some of the iconic, impactful radio personalities who've done things in this community. This is a great city. Some of the greatest radio personalities that in the country have come out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Janine is one of them. And so Miss Margaret Jones, who's the president, has done a wonderful, wonderful job of keeping this on the right track to acknowledge people who definitely have had an impact in the Charlotte community.
And looking back on your career, what moment or broadcast really stands out to you, and what are you most proud of?
Well, for me, it's been several.
Everything from actually going to Jenna, Louisiana, when they had the Jenna 6. That was about, I think, in 2006. All the way up to just being able to sustain for 30 years in the market. I mean, I think I'm most proud of that because this is a very competitive business, as you guys know. And just being able to stay relevant and current and impactful, I think that speaks volumes.
Wonderful. Again, you spoke about the competitiveness of the market, but also the importance of radio. We know that over the years, I mean, decades, radio has been so important for so many people, and you're being honored for your work there. What does that significance mean to you?
It's awesome. I mean, you think about Black radio in particular, we are the go-to for folks in the community, whether it's politics, it's parties, or power in general. It means a lot. It's exciting to know that, you know, sometimes media gets such a bad rap, but to be acknowledged because of the work that you love doing speaks volumes. So I'm excited.
For people trying to get into radio, what advice, would you really give them? What's something that young people should know as they want to make a career out of this?
Don't do it. No, BJ, I'll let you take that one.
Well, I mean, I've always had a dream of being on the radio. When I was 15 years old, I knew this is what I wanted to do. And I tell everybody since when I left my mother and father's house in 1983, I went to Shaw University. I've been on this course for 40-some years doing radio. I've always done what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I would say follow your dreams. There's a lot of opportunity out there with the digital space. There's a lot of evolution going on, and you could be one of those people who's a trailblazer, like we were back in the early 80s and 90s. And here Janina is now being recognized. I know her family is extremely excited because, I think, Janine, I can speak for you, that you probably never thought of being in some kind of a Hall of Fame. You just did it because of the love, right?
Right, the love of radio. And quite honestly, I never thought I would be here at all because starting out as a 5-year-old kindergarten dropout, okay? I was scared to be around people. I didn't want to talk to people. I just wanted to be around my mom and my grandma. So to come full circle and see, wow, when God has a plan for you, he has a plan. And so it's something that I absolutely love. And I think, BJ, you kind of touched on this. Do something you really love. Pour into it. And don't worry about the money, because we all are concerned about that. A lot of the Gen Xers are, but Gen Zers, what am I? A Gen X? I don't know. Anyway, the younger folks really care about the money, but you can't get caught up in that. It has to be something you really love. So how do you stay in something for 30 years and not love it? So,
right.
So here's a quick question for both of you. Again, you're great that you're living your purpose. You're doing the job that you want to do. You've always wanted to do something you love. Is there any person you'd like to interview or any event you'd like to cover as radio host that you haven't done in all your decades? What's on your bucket list for interviews?
Well, everybody wants to interview Oprah for sure. But my dream team would be, honestly, or my dream show, if you will, would be my doing a 3-hour podcast.
Wow.
In my studio in Aruba.
In Aruba,
oh,
okay. Wow. All right. Yeah. BJ, what about you? That sounds great. I want to do that too.
I would like to get all these honorees tonight in a room, because the Charlotte radio story needs to be told. Like you think about the posthumous awards with Barbara Taylor and Nate Quick, great Skip Murphy, Eddie Owens, Cheryl Patterson, Marvin Ross, Beatrice Thompson.
Yeah.
This illustrious. This is probably, I don't think you could top this entry into the Black Radio Hall of Fame in Charlotte. Dr. Stay Alexander, Debbie Quay, Todd Haygood, Margaret Jones, Mickey Watson. These are all our contemporaries. This is like the heyday of Black radio in Charlotte induction ceremony, So I would like to get everybody in a room and tell the story, Janine, about, Charlotte and how it's evolved and the people that we train that are on the radio today.
No, that would be a great interview. And you would interview us.
Of course I would, yes. Absolutely.
Naturally.
Okay.
And tonight's event is certainly going to be, with all those people in the room, 18 honorees. It's going to be a who's who event. I'm sure it's great to see people who you've worked with, those who you look up to, who inspired you to do exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. It's going to be like a reunion, honestly, because some of these folks, even though we're all in the same city, we never really get to see each other and have conversation. So I'm excited about that, too.
Right.
Wonderful.
You know, and I'm going to tell you, if there was a radio station invented today that you could put in Charlotte, where you could have all these iconic radio personalities on one radio station, it would be wildly successful and impactful. So hats off to everybody who's made a contribution. Janine, hats off to you. Salute you.
Thank you.
One of the most professional, strategic, and sometimes annoying radio personality.
Hello, excuse me. You know we're live, BJ.
But Janine is powerful, and she deserves this award. I'm so happy that she's receiving this, and hats off to you, Janine. Thank you
so much.
Wonderful. Janine Davis of WBAV and BJ Murphy, just two of the honorees for the event happening tonight. The Charlotte chapter of the National Black Radio Hall of Fame holding its honors event tonight. Congratulations again to both of you. I know it's going to be a fun evening.
Yes.
Exciting.
Thank you so much for joining us.
All right.
Thank you so much for having us. Appreciate it.
That was a great interview from this morning. All right, let's shift back to San Diego, California, where we are continuing to get new images and new perspective on that plane crash into a neighborhood in the Tierra Santa early this morning. That's according to San Diego police. We do know that at least 15 homes were affected. 2 people were killed, 8 injured. Here's live coverage from CBS 8 in San Diego, our content partners. And just to give you context of what's going on, you see the animals there. There are pets that were impacted, covered in jet fuel. And so the Humane Society there is treating those pets impacted by the crash. Overall, again, a very heartbreaking situation all around for that community as they deal with the aftermath of that plane crash. Let's take a listen into their live coverage happening right now.
Early this morning, about 4:42 a.m., and our officers responded right away to the scene. Obviously devastating, and so our hearts go out to everyone involved in this. They have been picking up dogs that, as you said, were running stray or owners needed help with, and bringing them to our San Diego campus. We have also now deployed our emergency response team, so they are behind the closed-off fire lines along with first responders. We've had a lot of calls for service from pet owners who had to evacuate and leave their animals behind. So our emergency response team will now go through that list and essentially check on those animals to make sure that they are okay. Anyone who needs help, if you are concerned about your animal that you left behind, please call us at our main number. Our dispatch is here to take your name, information, address, phone number, and then our emergency response team can help.
Okay, and you can't get that information online, but for any of our viewers who want to go and grab a pen, a piece of paper, or maybe you're watching this live from your phone and you have been displaced, maybe there's someone around you that can write this down or remember this phone number. But if you need help with your pet, if say your pet is at your home and you don't know if your pet's okay because you had to leave, what is that number that they can call?
That number is 619-299-7012, and you would press 1 right away for our dispatch team.
Okay, thank you so much, Nina. So again, Humane Society officers, they will be out doing this all day. These animals are among the victims, like those 100 families that were displaced. We will continue to stay out here on scene, and we will keep you posted with the very latest and later editions of CBS 8. Eric and Netta?
Reporting those images. Good to see that some of those dogs are feeling better after getting a lot of help from the Humane Society. In a moment's notice, lives were changed, upended, even with their pets. We heard from one person who told our our crews that they had to surrender their pregnant dog or their dog that had recently had seven puppies because now they're dealing with damage to their home. Their car may have been destroyed by this, so there's just way too much going on in their lives, so they had to surrender that. So that's kind of the chaos and kind of the just complete destruction that happened in a moment's notice, upending lives. We've been experiencing that and hearing that from neighbors all morning long there in this Tierra Santa neighborhood that had this devastating plane crash that happened at 3:45 this morning. 2 people on board at least were killed. 8 others were injured. Injuries from smoke inhalation all the way to injuries sustained while running from the scene.
And a lot of people had to climb over fences. They were helping each other out. We've heard from so many people. These are military trained, many of them sailors, and they are trained to rescue people, obviously for war, for battle, things like that. But now in their neighborhood, they were using all the skills that they have to help each other out, grabbing ladders, helping people over fences to get them out of those streets where this fire was burning. And we heard they are living paycheck to paycheck. So many of these families with multiple kids and pets, now they don't have cars to get to work and to get to school. So this area is going to be impacted for weeks, for months. Right now, people are donating at the Miller Elementary School, but the Red Cross is asking, please not to do that anymore. Monitor your donations will help them a lot further.
There are other ways to give, and we know San Diego will step up once again, as we have done in the past in this time of tragedy. Our live team coverage continues on CBS 8 News, live at noon.
We flipped the. All right, so that was live coverage in San Diego as they continue to cover that small plane crash into a neighborhood of Tierra Santa. Again, leaving is deadly, but also leaving pets impacted, families impacted, homes and buildings damaged, and cars damaged as well. So we will continue to keep an eye on that. All right, so we want to come back here home. So we played a portion of it for you earlier, but we want to get back to that interview that we got a chance to do with Carolina Ascent. They're #1 in the regular season standings. They brought in the Shield.
They brought in the Shield.
The Shield, hats.
It was a treat for Nick and I.
It was a great time. Look, we got to give them their flowers. They're doing an incredible job. They have 2 regular season games left away, unless you want to go to Brooklyn for the next game this weekend. But good news, there are tickets available for the playoff game at home.
Yep.
And they are doing an outstanding job. So here's that full interview. Let's take a listen in. All right, so we got some guests in here. Carlene, I like guests. I get excited about guests. I'm pushing my chair up. So we got the best pro team in the Charlotte area. Look, I'm putting a lot of pressure on these ladies. Let me not spoil it for you. Let me not keep it from you guys. We have Carolina FC in here. We have Ashlyn Sarepka.
Yes.
And Giovanna DeMarco. I practice these names in my head. I don't want to mess up the names. I don't want any problems after this interview.
No, that was good. They're a mouthful.
How does that feel, being the best, me saying that, the best pro team?
I'm blushing.
There.
I know. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say, but we've worked so hard for it, so.
I mean,
it's exciting.
The proof is in the pudding. I mean, you guys are #1 in the regular season. You still have 2 more regular season games, right?
Yes.
How does that feel? How's this? Because it's been a long season. I know it's kind of split in half, but how's the season, this inaugural season, been?
Oh, it's been amazing. I think it's very rare. I don't know if it's ever happened where someone wins the Shield and still has 2 games left. So to outright win the regular season and still have 2 more games left is just a huge accomplishment, and it just speaks volumes to our team and the work that we've put in since August. Like you said, it's been a super long season, so we're August all the way through to June. So we're just in grind mode all the time, which is amazing. But the team, I mean, it just speaks volumes. I mean, the Shield being here just is a true testament to everything, the team, the staff, everyone behind the scenes, the work they've put in.
That's the Shield right there, guys. Oh man, that's pretty sweet. Yeah.
She's glowing. She is glowing.
How do you guys get through that? It's a grind. That's a long season. Like, how do you pace yourself throughout the season?
I mean, I think it can be tough, but I think that our coaching staff and our training staff and everyone behind the scenes does a really good job of monitoring us and taking care of us. And I mean, there's a ton of stuff that we do off the field to recover and take care of our bodies and make sure that we're showing up every day in tip-top shape. But and I think a big piece of it is the people. Like we want to come show up every day and give our best self because of the environment that we're in, and we have a really good group, so that makes it worth it.
Where are y'all from?
I'm from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Okay. Eagles fan?
Yes.
Okay, all right. We're going to skip you. Okay. I'm joking.
I'm from Charlotte.
From Charlotte. Okay.
Yes.
So, like, well, one, being from Charlotte, how is that? And then also, like, professional, I mean, the Carolinas that's a pretty cool area to be in a pro team, be on a pro team. Like, how is that? Being on a pro team, one, being from Charlotte, and then just being in a pro team in just a cool city like Charlotte.
We definitely have the best market. Just kidding, but we love Charlotte. I mean,
she's not kidding.
I am biased being from here, but I mean, to be able to live out my dream in my hometown, it truly is. It makes me like emotional, honestly, thinking about it, because I'm like, I would have never, probably 10 years ago, ever thought that this was something that could happen. And now to be in our hometown and to now bring a championship back to our, or a shield back to our hometown, is something that's so special. And Charlotte's just an amazing sports atmosphere. So to have the support that we do, I mean, we couldn't do it without our fans. So it's just an amazing place to be, an amazing place to live out our dreams.
You're only, 8-9 hours from Philly, so not far.
And I went to school down here.
Okay.
I went to college at Wake Forest, so North Carolina has always
336. I'm from High Point.
Place in my heart.
Yep.
So yeah, it was really nice to be given the opportunity to come back to North Carolina, because I loved it here when I was in school. And I think it's just a great city, and our fans care so much. Like I would say we have one of the best fan bases in the league, if not the best. And we just get a really good crowd and people who want to show up for us every game. So that means a lot to have that.
Speaking of the fans, do you guys get recognized while you're out and about?
Here and there.
Okay.
We try to.
We went to the Checkers game a couple weeks ago, and some little girls came up.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Really nice. Yeah.
What is game day like? Because I mean, obviously you have 2 more regular season games, and then you're hosting the playoff game, the first playoff game at the stadium. But like, what is that like? Because I remember we covered the very first game. And I was jealous. I was on the anchor desk, where I'm like, can we swap places? Can I be the reporter? And then, I could be out there. But what is game day like for you guys with the fans?
I mean, I think it's a huge shout out to our marketing people and anyone who does any of the behind the scenes stuff on game days, because the fan engagement that they set up is amazing. We've gone to every market for away games, and no place does it like we do. They have so many things going on for especially the younger girls, which is a big fan base for us, is younger girls who want to live out the dreams that we're getting to. And our marketing people and anyone involved just does an amazing job with that engagement, whether it's having a autograph session at the park, or there was a Taylor Swift concert or a Taylor Swift cover band concert before this last game. So there's so much to do, and you can just see it in all the little girls' faces when they're at the games. It's like the highlight of their week, their month, whatever it is. So I think our game days here are super special, and I think it's something that just sets us apart and, again, contributes to our success.
Oh, man. What is, for you, are you like super locked in on game day, or do you pay attention to what's going on around you as far as the fans?
I feel like leading up to the game, locked in, but once you're like on the field, once you're like warming up and people are starting to trickle in, and then right before they blow the whistle, like I think it's important to like take that moment in and just embrace it, and how lucky we are to have these people who want to come watch us. Like that's such a cool feeling, and yeah, you can't forget that. So.
Oh man, that's dope. Like, so how do you like? obviously, okay, you have the Shield, you have the #1 spot, playoff spot secured. It's going to be a home game, but you have 2 regular season games left. How do you you don't want to bypass those 2 regular season games, but you're also like, all right, playoffs are here, let's get to it. How do you focus on the final 2 regular season games, but also locking into the playoff game?
I think we just take it one game at a time. Our coach and our staff do a really good job of really helping us hone in on just the next game. We don't really talk too much about playoffs right now. We're just talking about Brooklyn and ways that we can take from our last Tampa game, areas that we want to improve on. And it's honestly just such a great place to be because we have 2 games now that we can fine tune every little detail or anything we want to improve on, and take that into playoffs. So just continuing to sharpen one another, both on and off the field, and really just grow together too the next 2 weeks. It's just such a special group and just an amazing position that we're in to be able to go to Brooklyn and just really, we're going to do everything the same, but just to really sharpen up and be ready for that June 8th game.
Brooklyn FC, what Saturday, right?
Saturday.
Oh man, it'll be here before you know it. Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day weekend in New York, 2 p.m.
Plans to come and watch.
That's not far from Philly. Do you have any family coming to the game?
Well, I actually won't be there because I just had knee surgery.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It happens. It's part of the game.
Oh.
But, I'll be home this weekend with my family, which would be nice.
Oh, no. Take the day off.
Yeah.
All right. So Carlene and I are big. I just want to be vague for a second. We love merch.
We love merch.
Yes.
We were
us too.
Yeah.
What do you think about the merch? I mean, obviously, I know you a little biased, but
it's great merch.
Yeah.
The colors, the scene, everything.
And that's key to a good franchise. You look all right, the Cowboys, the Hornets, even the Hornets are not that great. I'm just being honest.
The merch is fly.
The merch is fly.
Yeah. Say it's not great merch, but the team is maybe not.
I'm looking at the jerseys. We were looking at hoodies and shirts. Guys might be #1 in the city right now.
Yeah. So we appreciate that.
So that being said, if there's some jerseys that were a size large, Carlene,
we got you.
We can steal some from you.
Oh, I got a hat. All right. I got a hat. All right. There we go.
That looks good.
Guys, I appreciate it. I just want to say, as a North Carolinian, Carlene's from the Carolinas, Charleston area, we're proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
We love that you guys are having success in your first season. We wish you well in the last 2 games, and obviously the playoff game. We have to bring you back. You have to come back.
Oh yeah, that's
so this is not your last stop.
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you guys. Again, that is Ashlyn and Giovanna here on Live Impact News with my new hat, my new merch.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, great to have Ashlyn and Giovanna part of the Ascent. We know how good they are and how great that team is and what the future will hold for them. I'm Colin Mayfield here joining you on the Live Impact News stream here on WCNC Plus. We've got multiple things that are happening in real time right now. We are obviously watching the aftermath of this plane crash in San Diego right now, but we're also awaiting a press conference on the shooting of 2 Israeli embassy members that were shot outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington. So we're going to get an update in the next few minutes, and we will go to that once it begins. But for now, we're going to go back to California as this coverage continues of this San Diego crash, small plane crash there in the San Diego area.
That are going to be answered hopefully in the coming days, the coming weeks, but still a lot of things we just don't know at this point. But I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you for that, Kelly.
And we're certainly here gathering that information. Our crews in various parts impacted by this plane crash. So we want to bring you more of our coverage here, more hopefully questions now being answered.
It was 3:45 when this plane crashed into a military neighborhood. Many members of the Navy live here. 100 people were displaced, had to be evacuated from their homes. CBS 8 Abby Black live from Miller Elementary School. That's one of the evacuation sites, and a briefing is about to begin there. What's this all about?
Yes, Eric, we are here live at Miller Elementary School where you have the fire department that is about to give a briefing to all of the families that had to evacuate, because this is the designated evacuation site where they've been accepting donations as well. We have diapers, we have clothes, because remember, many of these families that had to evacuate, it was in the middle of the night, so many had to leave with just their pajamas on. And now we're talking about we're in the middle of the day. They need clothes, they need food, they need diapers for their babies. And they also have therapy dogs are here as well. Okay, we're going to pause and let's listen to what the fire department says to brief these families.
My name is Eric Windsor. I am with San Diego Fire. I'm a battalion chief with the fire department.
Right to your mouth and talk louder.
My name is Eric Windsor. I'm a battalion chief with San Diego Fire Department. I am the incident commander for this incident, and I wanted to give all of you a quick personal briefing so you would understand where we are currently in this incident. We are now in the investigation and recovery phase of this incident. I will start with an apology to those stakeholders, neighborhood members, that we were slower than we would like getting information out to all of you, but this is a very active and ongoing fluid situation. Right now, what I want to share with you, without going into too much depth of what's going on, is that we are going to start letting some residents back into their homes. We are going to open Tausig Street in its entirety. I would urge all of you, as you're going down Tausig, to drive slowly, drive safely. We still have a large police department presence, and a large presence of the fire department and the NTSB is now here on scene. I'm going to let you know right now what is open and what is not still accessible.
So he's going to let the people know what streets are open and what streets are closed.
All right, actually I'll take it. So Tausig is now open all the way down the length of Tausig. The streets that are unaccessible, we are not letting anybody in onto Yorktown Drive. Tausig and Yorktown Drive are still closed off. You can take Tausig to any one of the streets south of Yorktown. Yorktown Drive and Tausig will remain closed. We are also not letting anybody in onto Salmon Street or Salmon Road. No access from Patriot onto Salmon. So if you're on Salmon, we will not allow you up from Patriot or down Salmon from the north. Sculpin Street remains closed, Sample Street remains closed, and Santo will remain closed. But for all of you that need to use Tausig to get south of the incident, Tausig is now open. Again, please drive safely and slowly in the area. This school will be open tomorrow. For those parents who have students that attend this school will be open, as will, I believe it's Hancock Elementary is the other school that will also be open. We're going to continue to keep this open as an evacuation center for all of you to come and get food, drinks, and any help you may need. Captain Falk is my liaison officer here and will funnel any requests for information or needs through Captain Falk, and then he will funnel them through the incident command. So at this time, I'm not going to take any questions, but I wanted all of you to have the most updated information and know that Tausig is now open. And if you live south of the incident, you can get in and out. So thank you very much for your patience. We're doing our best to resolve this situation and get you back to some sense of normalcy. So be patient with us, bear with us, and we will get you back to your normal lives. Thank you very much.
So as you heard, the incident commander had just said some good news for many families that they've opened Tausig, so many of those families that live there. But I'm overhearing this woman right here. I think she lives in one of the affected areas, and she is very emotional about what to do.
By everybody else, and nobody's answering. I live right on Sample, right directly.
You're right on Sample?
Yes.
So we're going to Captain Falk is going to talk to you here in just a moment, and we're going to get into your stuff, okay? All right, hang in there for me.
These are the emotional families that we're seeing right now, as you can imagine, just how traumatizing it is for them, overwhelmed on what do I do? You know, parents are trying to keep it together for their kids to try to shield and protect them from the tragedy that's happened, but it's still just unknown on when can they get back into their homes, when can they get things. But for right now, this is the evacuation site. This is kind of their safe place where there's that comfort that many of these families can feel at the moment. It is overflowing with donations, food, those baby diapers, anything that a family needs at the moment while they are displaced. They can come here and get that blanket of comfort. We also have therapy dogs that are here from the San Diego Fire Department to bring some normalcy, because sometimes it can be very scary for kids to talk about this and try to learn to process this. But if they just have a pet of a dog, that can kind of just help ease some of their anxiety and hopefully not feel as scared, and kind of give them just a break to feel some kind of normalcy throughout the day, because it was chaotic this morning and some families had that chaos in their head on what to do. But hopefully they can come here and feel supported, because this is why we are here, to help our military organizations that help these families that are still here on the home front that need your help, especially during a time like this.
Abby Black, reporting there. Thank you, Abby, for that. And it's good to know that Taussig, which is a main artery to the west and south of some of those roads really impacted, is reopened. Right. Still, though, some frustration and a lot of emotions felt by specifically that woman we just heard from.
Yeah, for people who have not been home since 4 this morning. We're going to take a quick break, but the latest update again, Taussig is open. Hancock Elementary and Miller Elementary will be back to class tomorrow. We'll be right back.
All right, they are obviously going to take a break. We'll go back to their coverage in a couple of minutes when it comes back. Just destruction across this military community here in San Diego today. But this is this press conference that I was speaking of. And this situation happened last night. There were 2 lives cut short from gunfire outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington late last night. Israeli embassy staff members, 2 of them, were killed. And just a very tragic incident, obviously, as this situation in Israel, or between Israel and Gaza, goes on, not necessarily drawing conclusions to why this happened, because we still do not know, which is why we're waiting on this press conference, hopefully to give us more indications on this. But clearly this story is one for the headlines right now, and many people are talking about this on X right now, talking about who these individuals were. And it seems like police are continuing to question a shooting suspect, Elias Rodriguez. He's from Chicago, and he was heard yelling, "Free, free Palestine," after he was arrested. So, again, not exactly sure what connection this person has, but they're saying this person is a suspect. Again, it happened last night late. And again, we're still trying to get some information from them, but it seems like there's a retaliation that has sparked worldwide protests. And we've seen that here, even in the United States, against Israel, and some massive demonstrations on many U.S. college campuses, coupled with the rise of anti-Semitism. So there's a lot of tension in America in relation to this, understandably so, with some of the scenes that have come from both Israel and Gaza as well. So again, we're going to continue to monitor the situation. We believe this update will happen at some point. I'm going to pull up a little bit more about this from a different news site. This is from CNN. So the latest, again, American Jewish Committee was actually holding an event at the embassy, or at the Capitol Jewish Museum, apparently, which is where these individuals were, Yaron Leshinsky and Sarah Milgram. Those are the victims. Hope I'm saying that first name correctly, but Israel's ambassador has spoke about this as well. And so, the sole suspect that has been identified to us from police is 31-year-old Elias Rodriguez from Chicago, and again, chanting that free Palestine while in police custody. Eyewitnesses apparently from CNN saying that he waited for police to arrive after the situation before saying that he did it for Gaza. So Investigators expect Rodriguez to potentially face hate crime charges and other federal charges, but that could be announced later today. We're expecting his first court appearance today, so maybe there'll be an update in relation to that as well. So there's been global reaction as well from the president, even speaking with Israel's prime minister today about the shooting. So again, we're waiting for more indications on the situation, where the investigation is and who the suspect is, and really what the motive was behind this. Already, it seems like investigators are drawing some conclusions in relation to their interview that they've had with this individual. So we're going to go back to San Diego right now as the station that we were operating from continues to be on the air with this situation. Just astonishing, some of the sights. Look at this. So we'll go back to the coverage right now.
Gutter here, you can see it's all black, and the gas continued to flow, a river of fire down the street, downhill, because this whole area is sloped. And as we walk down here, you can see the curb is all black. It used to be red because it was on fire as we go, still a block away from Sample Street. Take a look, and it destroyed this car down here that was just parked a block away. And again, this car was destroyed because of the fire coming underneath it. And then, of course, there's gas inside the car, and so the car just goes up. So a lot of damage, not just on Sample Street, but blocks away, where this river of fire flowed and destroyed multiple cars, at least 10 cars just destroyed by the fire in the gutter coming down the street.
David, thank you for that. And yes, it is a hazmat scene. There's a lot of health concerns there, and that's why not all of the streets are not quite open yet, including Sample in the street that David was walking down there. There's a lot of damage and destruction we've seen.
Flammable fuel right there, and you saw how it spread. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more coverage.
All right, we're going to go to some Senate discussions right now in progress. We'll go to listen in to this until we get back to the coverage in San Diego or to our press conference in Washington.
Parish police jury, and they sent me some photos of some Lake Charles homes. And I'm saying this in the context of a discussion about flood insurance and what has happened that just seems irrational. Now, to reduce their risk of flooding and therefore their monthly flood insurance premiums, people have paid to elevate their homes. It makes sense. If you get flood waters, it works. And it costs anywhere from $25,000 and $40,000. And if your foundation needs repair, there's another $25,000 on top of that. And if you have to fully replace your foundation, that can be another $100,000. But if it lowers your flood insurance premiums, it could be a worthwhile investment. You lift your homes, and you may not flood. Here is this home, a similar home, and you can see whereas the neighbors are flooding, in this one, an elevation like this prevents a flood in this picture. That home's not flooding, their insurance premium should go down. But after spending tens of thousands of dollars, homes to mitigate one's risk of flooding, they're still seeing high insurance premiums. They're getting the worst of both worlds. They had to pay to elevate their home, successfully preventing flooding. Despite that, they're having to pay much higher insurance premiums. Let's put up the chart of prices. Two properties. This is before they elevated their home, after they elevated their home. And at first it worked. They go from $12,000 a year to $758, from $4,500 down to $751. This is an investment which would lower the cost of flood insurance, saving the National Flood Insurance Program money, and therefore it is worthwhile to raise your home. Now, however, under a new system called Risk Rating 2.0, it doesn't matter. Here they pay tens of thousands of dollars to elevate their home, and under this new system, their premium is back up to $9,800 or to $7,300. In this case, higher than it was before they elevated their home. The percent increase, about 1,200%. The percent increase here, almost 900%. Does not make sense. By the way, why would you pay to elevate your home if you get the double whammy of paying to elevate, and then your premiums in some cases are higher than when they started? Now, these are just two examples. People who did everything right, did what they're supposed to, they're not going to flood, and yet after Risk Rating 2.0, this is what happened. I don't know if people still say ripped off, but they feel ripped off. They feel as if they did what was right and they've been punished and penalized because their premiums almost, or in some cases more than doubled relative to what happens. Now, these are nice homes, but they're not castles. These are middle-income families. And, you know, neighbors driving a pickup truck. And you looks a little bit, you're a car dealer, Mr. President, that doesn't look like it's a 2025. It's a good truck, it's a good family. These are not wealthy families. They are good middle-income families, spending tens of thousands of dollars to elevate their home, and yet still their premium continues to rise. So, with Risk Rating 2.0 driving up costs for lower and middle-income families, about a fifth of those enrolled in the National Flood Insurance Program will be forced to drop their coverage over the next 10 years. Okay, you raise premiums, and you raise them to a degree that 20% of the people, typically the lowest risk, drop their coverage. Then the flood insurance program has to spread its risk over a smaller base, which means it elevates the premiums even more. And so those who need it least are the next 20% to drop off. And this initiates what is called an actuarial death spiral. Risk Rating 2.0 is like termites eating away at the foundation of a house, and if we do nothing, the home is going to collapse. I introduced legislation in February to give low and middle income households enrolled in the National Flood Insurance Program a 33% reduction in their premium in the form of a refundable tax credit that will go straight to their premium payment at the time it is due. Now, hurricane season won't wait on those who need flood insurance. Americans in my state and across the country need relief now. If we really want to put Americans first, we can start by making the National Flood Insurance Program affordable now and keeping it affordable 10 to 15 years from now. It is a pocketbook issue. But when you flood, like folks in Louisiana and other states have, it becomes a personal issue. Since the start of 2025, at least 21 Americans across 8 states have died as a result of flooding and storms hitting their communities. Millions have been left without power or evacuated from their homes. And when you hear flood insurance, hey, I don't live in a coastal state. I don't live in Florida or Louisiana. Well, why does it bother me? My home will not get it destroyed. I wish that were true. This isn't a one-state problem. It is a one-nation problem. All 50 states have National Flood Insurance Program policyholders. The darker the color, the more likely the flooding. Missouri is in dark color. New York State, minimal coastline in dark color. Pennsylvania, dark color. This is called riverine flooding, where you have a river and it comes down like this, and you can get the river, people building in the valley get flooded because the river overflows its banks and it fills up that V-shaped valley. And so that's why you would see flooding. You hear in the darker, not as dark, but still dark, you have the Dakotas also having problems with flooding. So it is a 50-state problem. And in these states, there are those who don't have flood insurance, and the time will come when they wish that they did. The National Flood Insurance Program can provide certainty for individuals and for their family. And maybe you won't see flooding as extreme as losing a home. I sure hope you don't. But I'm not just talking about the worst case scenario. Let's imagine, going back to this picture, the family didn't get their home completely flooded. The family got 4 inches of water in their living room. Their carpets are destroyed. If their floor is anything but concrete, it is destroyed. If you have furniture in there that's cloth, it's destroyed. If you get mold, then you're going to have to rip out the sheetrock and replace wherever you had sheetrock. 2 to 3 inches destroys the carpet. In fact, the most expensive 3 inches in a flood are the first 3 inches. And that's what makes flooding so difficult for a middle-income family to recover from. And for many, the National Flood Insurance Program is the only option they have. Now, by the way, the program designed to help them is failing them. And when millions of Americans are being impacted, Washington should act. And let me be clear, the National Flood Insurance Program is a federal program, meaning that Congress and the President can change and improve it. We just need to have the will. So I urge my colleagues to join me in working with the Trump administration to end Risk Rating 2.0. In 2019, my office worked with the Trump administration to successfully delay Risk Rating 2.0 because of the lack of transparency as to how FEMA was calculating the rates. President Trump understood then and understands now that Americans are tired of being ripped off. When rivers swell, when coastlines have rising water, Americans should not have to fear the cost of rebuilding without affordable insurance. So let's make the National Flood Insurance Program affordable, accountable, and sustainable. Severe weather is relentless. We must be too. And with that, I yield. And I note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll. Ms. Officer Brooks.
All right. Looks like things are wrapping up for this session in terms of U.S. senators discussing disaster relief. Obviously, some big news overnight with the House passing the big, beautiful bill, which now goes on to the Senate. We'll continue to watch those situations and those developments over the next 24, 48 hours here on WCNC Plus for you, as we always do, which is a great time to tell you WCNC Plus a great competitive advantage over everyone else here in Charlotte because we can bring you those updates right here streaming live inside the Live Impact News studio. So download that on your smart TV. Tell your friends and your family to watch out as we can expound on a lot of information that we report and really take journalism, we believe, to the next level. So that's the big thing for us. A lot has been going on in City Council, right? There's been a settlement brewing, or alleged settlement brewing between the chief and certain members of council. Certain people have called for the mayor to resign even. So we'll have to see where that situation goes. But another thing that was highlighted today, Tijuana Brown being indicted on different charges based off COVID-19 relief programs. So she's charged with defrauding COVID-19 relief programs, and she actually held a press conference today to I guess, speak a little bit about this and give her side of things. We'll go to this now.
Good morning. Today I sit before you as a public servant, a mother, a woman of faith, not broken, not silenced, but resolved. The allegations made against me in the indictment are serious. I take them very seriously. But I will not be tried in the media. I will have my day in court where the truth belongs. But let me be clear. It's an effort to distract from the work I've done, the lives I've touched, and the community I represent. To my District 3 family, I see you, I serve you, I love you, and I will continue to fight for you. My commitment to justice, equity, and second chances remain unshaken. I trust the legal process, and I remain focused on what matters the most to people. Now, when I found out that there may have been some scrutiny in the application, I paid it back. I have one loan, $20,000, $833. $20,000, $833. When the application was processed, I paid it back. No one had to tell me to pay it back. When I found out that there may have been some stipulations and how the application was processed, I paid it back. Now, on the other hand, that's Hillbilly Barbecue that has $1.5 million that never went into the courtroom. They were able to pay it back civilly through a civil matter. Okay? So there's some PPP loans out there that just came up that never touched the courtroom. So if it's about justice and I paid it back, why are we here? Why are we here? I paid it back. On my own. No one had to tell me to do that. I paid it back.
That was the full 124.
I don't have 124. I paid $20,000 back. You're reading an indictment. I just made my statement.
The indictment says that you used those funds on a birthday party. Is that the case?
I paid $20,000 back.
Did you originally use the funds that were provided for you for that birthday party?
I paid it back. The funds that I got was $20,833, and I paid it back.
And Councilmember Brown, it sounds like, are you planning to stay on council?
Why would I resign? I haven't been convicted of anything. I was elected for the people, by the people. The people would have to remove me out of the seat.
The feds also allege that your daughters were involved with this. Did you fill out any applications on their behalf?
I'm not going to speak on behalf of anybody that's not here.
What do you say to the residents of District 3 who are seeing this in the news? They're well aware of your history. How can they have confidence in your ability to continue to serve and your desire to continue to serve in the future?
My whole platform is based off second chances. It's based off transparency and truth. I've did several interviews with you. I always come forward. I'm always accountable. There's nothing to hide. My residents know who I am. They know my history. They know who I am. They know my history. My history is not a secret. I live my life on my history. There are women that I meet at the door that come home with just a bag in their hand and they live in my house. The feds sent them there. Did they tell you that? I house their women. They live with me. They're in one of my homes right now. This is the work that I do. It's who I am.
You call the attack political. What do you think the motivation is if it's political? Reason for it.
I paid the money back. No one had to tell me to pay it back. If we're seeking justice and I paid back the $20,833 that I'm accountable for, then why are we here? Why are we here?
So you got to put it in perspective.
If it's in the matter of justice and we're seeking justice and I paid it back, again, why are we here?
Councilmember, you mentioned earlier, you said when you were kind of first made aware of the questions about the relief money, and when you paid it back, can you walk us through a little bit of the timeline of like when you first heard about the concerns and when you paid it back?
I didn't say I was aware of any questions. I just paid it back. I paid it back. It was done by a third party. The application was submitted by a third party. So what I accept responsibility for is maybe not scrutinize the application the way that I should have.
And this is going to be a trial, so we're not going to get too much into the
it's definitely going to be a trial. But I do want to say this. When a person has something to hide, they don't send out a press release. They don't show up and answer questions. And so I've done this my entire life. I travel the world. I have a national footprint fighting for women that are needing second chances, third chances, fourth chances, and fifth chances. What I'm saying to you is, when I found out there may have been any discrepancy in the application that was submitted by a third party, I paid it back. That's not in the paperwork that you have, but I paid it back, and it was submitted.
The feds say the money was supposed to be used for payroll. Did you use that money for payroll?
Again, this is going to be for trial, so I've asked her not to answer these questions.
The feds say you spent $3,500 on a venue for your birthday party, $5,000 in catering, $2,300 for photography, a rented throne, and a horse-drawn carriage.
So,
what was that party?
So same answer on that one. This is not the time for us to try the case.
And the reason I came here today is because I've been very supportive of Ms. Brown. I've paid her thousands of dollars over the years for working with my company. So any insinuation that she took some money from a PPP loan when she has 3 jobs. She worked for Uber, she worked for Lyft, she worked for American Airlines. So to say that this money that was related to this PPP loan was exclusively used to pay for stuff like that, I personally gave her donations for that. So, you know, the last thing I want to say is I come here today to support her because we're talking about something that happened during a time when everyone was filing these loans, right? And the only mistake that she made was she didn't scrutinize it the way that she should have scrutinized it. And once she became aware, once they made her aware, I'm going to say that. She didn't say it, I said it. Once they made her aware that it was some problems, just like you coming and questioning right now, when she was questioned about it, she paid it back. No questions asked because she accepted responsibility of the fact that she did not scrutinize the application the way she did. She didn't fill out the application. So the fact that she didn't fill out the application and there were some things that may have been put on that may not have been correct, she's not saying it, I'm saying it. The reality is that this was 5 years before she ever thought about running for office. So today she's staying here as a person that did more than Hillbilly Bob could ever done. That company that didn't get indicted, right? She paid it back. What justice is to seek to get the money back. The other company, they sitting over here, and it has, I don't care about the politics or none of that. We talking about people's lives. And to sit here and do an attack on this black woman right here, who paid it back. That's what we want, right? When you go to somebody and you say, hey, this right here, money may not have been obtained the correct way, right? We need you to pay this back, right? Everybody has the opportunity. IRS has a way to pay that back on their website, right? So you pay it back. Now tell me one person who have paid it back that got indicted other than Tijuana Brown. You won't find it. Because the fact...
All right, we're going to wrap this. We have a special guest, and I want to bring him in because we only have about 18 more minutes left of our stream. Obviously, we can go long if necessary, and we will tell you where you can stream this if it does go past 4 o'clock. But I do have the down Professor Naveen Bapat, Professor of Peace and War and Political Science and the Chair of the Curriculum of Peace, War, and Defense at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Naveen, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for sharing some time with us. I want to set the scene because I don't think a lot of Americans understand some of the history of South Africa, right? So let me just set the scene here first. Folks listening in, President Trump met with the South African president yesterday, President Ramaphosa, and during those discussions, he made some claims about white genocide in South Africa. And obviously, we've seen South Africans come to America already to become citizens, but that claim was widely refuted and was criticized and has been over the last 24 hours here. So this is kind of where we're kind of starting. So let's talk about really the struggle that South Africa has seen, Mr. Bapat, and really it's been a struggle of period of racial segregation and a struggle for a democratic future. There's been a lot of intricacies in this. So can you kind of unwind South African history over the last 50 years for us, just to give us a better idea before we dive in a little deeper?
Sure. So South Africa was colonized by a group that called themselves the Afrikaners, right? So they were of Dutch origin. They were the ones who came to South Africa. Eventually, the English also came to South Africa during the 1800s. There was a war between the Dutch descendants, who were known as the Boer, and the English, and eventually South Africa was colonized into the Union of South Africa. After independence, South Africa became an apartheid state, and a specifically apartheid state, where white South Africans, the Afrikaners, were given particular rights, whereas the black South Africans were not given rights. So it was a racially segregated country where the minority had all of the political power and all of the economic power. There was a long period of struggle for the black Africans to try to achieve their some degree of independence and earn their equality. And then in the 1990s, Nelson Mandela famously shook hands with F.W. de Klerk, who was the Prime Minister of South Africa, and we had a period of transition where South Africa moved into a democracy where it is today. In that transition, it's difficult to do that, right? There's hundreds of years where Afrikaners were dominating the political landscape and the economic landscape. We are seeing a multiracial democracy in South Africa today. What we do see, though, is there's a legacy of apartheid where the Afrikaners, the white Afrikaners, have most of the economic power and most of the land in South Africa today, which is, I think, what President Trump was talking about, that there may be threats to the white Afrikaners. But there really doesn't seem to be any basis of that. What we are seeing is that South Africa has a very high crime rate, which is consistent across multiple groups of people. But again, there's a large number of white Afrikaners that have land, and as a result of crime, it might seem like there's a tax on the land. So that, again, is just part of the larger general amount of crime in South Africa. It doesn't seem to be what is the textbook definition of genocide.
Awesome. You laid that in layman's terms perfectly, especially for somebody like me. I think a lot of Americans understand and kind of remember who Nelson Mandela was, but may not remember with the struggle he came out of, right? The 20 plus years he was in jail, and really why. So thankfully you put that in perspective for us. So Mr. Papat here, so we go now, and I feel like we have two different issues, right? And there's been a law recently about land redistribution. So can we talk about that first? And really, if you can go back and talk about how, right, the white Afrikaners have a lot of the land and how that correlates to some of the violence that the president was speaking of, again, just to kind of flesh that out again for us, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So again, part of the issue is that there is a general large amount of crime in South Africa, right? That's sort of a problem that's been ongoing for some time, and there's some of it is violent. And so what may get more publicity, I would say, is when this happens to those that are relatively wealthier or those that may have land. And so those types of stories can be taken in isolation, but again, if we look at South Africa, there's just a large amount of crime generally, right? So it's not necessarily targeting one particular group. Now, if we tie that into this law that you refer to with South Africa, which is basically, again, to sort of put it very simply, it gives the government the power to take land without compensation. And that might be seen as a way to redistribute wealth from those that have it and those that have land to those that don't. But I should emphasize that that law has not been utilized in any real significant way. As was pointed out by the president of South Africa yesterday, the United States has a similar law in eminent domain, right? So that's not, again, by itself, that's not so shocking, and it doesn't indicate any sort of large-scale effort to basically take away land from the white Afrikaners or anything like that. Though there are some parties that have tried to play that stuff up, but it doesn't seem to be a large systemic policy.
Interesting. Thank you. And then in this larger issue of genocides, I think, in my estimation, that can be a very slippery slope, especially when you have the president of the largest democratic nation in the world, right, talking about and maybe saying there's a white genocide. That can be very intrusive in certain respects, especially to the history of South Africa. And I don't want to necessarily say that's not happening, but based on your perspective, is that true? Is that a true statement that the president was saying, or was he trying to elicit more of a response in your estimation based on the violence that may or may not be seen? Is that the right thing to ask there?
Sure. Yeah. So I can't speak to his motives, but what I can say is that if we use the definition of genocide that is typically used by the UN and typically used by political sciences, to which there is an effort by one group to try to systematically destroy another group and sort of erase them from existence. That's not what's happening here, right? And so I think we could come to a pretty fairly easy conclusion that there is no genocide that's being conducted here against white South Africans. And the interesting thing is that in the White House yesterday, you had white South Africans that were saying basically the same thing, that there is no sort of white genocide. It is something that has been picked up by some political parties that are quite small in South Africa and has been played up, right? So there are some people that will say, yes, there is a genocide, but it's not systematic. It's not wide across the board. There just doesn't seem to be any evidence to support those claims. Again, it requires the systematic destruction of a people, which we're just not seeing in South Africa.
And I did want to ask you about this because it seems, or it feels a little bit uncomfortable in certain respects, right? We see a ton of what the government is calling undocumented immigrants being detained by what we believe to be ICE and maybe either held in certain respects or going back to their countries. Now, we just saw 59 white individuals from South Africa come to the United States, right, based on what the president said, and seeking, I guess, asylum here in the United States. How, in terms of what you're looking at, is this more of an open door situation that we're going to see in this sense? Is this a way for more South Africans to make their way to the United States? Or is this a way for all South Africans to maybe seek asylum in the United States? Because, like I said, there's kind of a juxtaposition going on, right, with certain individuals within the United States, whether they're leaving or coming.
Yeah, no, that's a really important point, right? So I think in this particular case with South Africa, those that would be allowed to enter the United States would be those that are seeking asylum from what the president has called a genocide, which, I think we can argue really isn't happening. So it's targeted to a specific group of people. I don't think it applies generally to all South Africans. I think it applies sort of specifically, narrowly to this group of Afrikaners that claim that they are facing persecution. There's just not that many of them.
Okay.
That is an interesting point to sort of juxtapose that with the president's sort of general refugee policy, which has been an effort to try to tamp down the number of people that come into the United States seeking asylum or seeking refugee status. That has been general across the board. I'd say certainly if we look at refugees coming from South America, from Central America, there's been an effort to clamp down on that. So there is certainly something different that is happening about these particular group of individuals, and it does sort of tie to their status as Afrikaners, which are traditionally the white individuals in South Africa that had privilege at one point in time.
Thank you so much for addressing that, because like I said, it does seem like a juxtaposition. And I know some Americans, we've even gotten emails about some of those questions. I do want to bring in to light as well Elon Musk being within the president's inner circle, advising him at certain points. He is a resident, or was from advisor from South Africa, right? Or is from South Africa. So I think he has a perspective in some sense. Do you believe, and I haven't necessarily seen any of this, but do you know if there's any connection maybe as to where this policy came from? Could it have come from Elon Musk based on his perspective, what he's seen and what he's felt and lived through from South Africa? Does that, you think, play a role as well?
It could. I don't know for sure. I'm not sure. Mr. Musk does seem to have sort of taken up the calling of several of these types of organizations globally, but I don't know if it's specific to Elon Musk or not. It could be, right? Okay. And I think I would say generally the president's attention has not been on South Africa, judging from the first term and judging from the campaign. So that may well be where it's coming from, but I don't really know that for sure.
Okay. Tough question to field. I'm sorry to throw that up to you, but
sure.
Well said. Yeah. Well said. Last thing here, and this is a simple question based off what I've already asked. So what's next? Like, what does it look like from here? I mean, obviously you had President Ramaphosa, directly say this is not happening, right? And then the remarks, there was I wouldn't say glad handing, right? There was a very positive atmosphere at the beginning of that, and then it went downhill, much like the interview and the interaction with Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine a couple of months back, very reminiscent of that. So what's next? Where do we go from here? What should folks, not necessarily be worried about, maybe looking out for in this type of issue here?
Well, with this issue, again, the interesting thing about it is that I don't think it affects South Africa really at all, right? Because again, this is largely a response to crime. Whether or not a small number of white Afrikaners come to the United States, and that's all it seems to be right now, that may be possible, but I don't think it affects South Africa as far as its own health. Maybe at a tangential level, it might affect tourism to South Africa, but even there, I'd be kind of skeptical because South Africa will still receive tourists from all over the world. One thing I think it does do, though, that is important, is that South Africa, again, it's in the interest of the United States, I think, to have good relationships with South Africa, given the size of their economy relative to the rest of the African continent, and given their strategic location, right? I do think it's in the interest of the United States to have those relationships, especially with history with Nelson Mandela and others. But I think this does harm that, right? I think, again, if South Africa is going to be accused of something it didn't do, especially if the term genocide is used, which is a terrible thing that no one wants to be associated with when it's not even happening. I think that does have negative foreign policy implications for U.S. policy towards South Africa, and perhaps in a larger sense, much of the continent.
Last thing I got to ask you, am I missing anything that you think our viewership should know? Any puzzle pieces that maybe we glanced over that we really should think about or is important to this discussion?
Well, with this issue, I mean, I'm not sure we have really. It's actually quite simple. So I'm not sure that there's more to discuss.
Awesome. Man, you are an expert, Naveen Bapat. I hope you join us again. He is a professor of peace and war and political science and the chair of the curriculum of peace, war, and defense at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He has an amazing score on Rate My Professor, by the way. So if you go to Chapel Hill, you got to take this guy's courses. I only wish I was back at Chapel Hill to learn from you as well, Mr. Bapat. So thank you so much for your time, and have a great Thursday evening, my friend.
Thank you. You too.
All right. So now we're going to go back to U.S. Senate discussions that are still in progress as we near the 4 o'clock hour, as Jane Monreal and Nick Sturdivant will take over on our linear show on WCNC. But we'll go now to this in progress.
Because they are so dedicated to pulling the strings of government on behalf of the fossil fuel industry. That is corruption, plain and simple, on full display before the American public. That's what's happened. Think about what this means for the future of this nation. You can't count on a waiver staying in place. So how do you make decisions based on getting that waiver? Or you get a license from the government, but a license, maybe that looks a lot like a rule. It's an act of government, it's a decision. How's that different than a waiver? You can't count on that license not being taken away by this body. What about a grant? A grant is a government decision, kind of like a waiver, except has money accompanying it. So now a grant can be brought here to the floor and wiped out. What about a permit? A permit is very close to being a waiver, saying, hey, you can undertake this process, we're giving you permission. Well, that's what a waiver does. It says, yes, you can undertake that process. So now, no one has a foundation for pursuing projects because they know that if the majority wants to play favors for a powerful special interest, they can wipe you out with no foundation of law. That's what happened here. And that is a travesty. It's a travesty that none of my colleagues, I would hope if they reflected on it, outside the pressure of having their arms twisted, would engage in. And I know they would be highly critical if the parties were reversed. In addition, once that waiver is struck down, it's suggested under the rules of the CRA that a similar waiver might not be able to be granted in the future. So now you have two laws in conflict with each other. One law says you can grant the waiver. The other law says if something was struck down through the CRA, nothing similar.
All right, we're going to wrap things here on WCNC Plus. Just for now, we'll be back from 7 to 9. We hope you will join us as we have live breaking news here on WCNC Plus. Breaking stories, real-time coverage, and it only happens here on WCNC Plus. Download it tonight, stream for free. We've got a lot of content. Nate Morabito updating a bunch of investigations. You can find that on our streaming content as well. I'll send it over to Nick Sturdivant and Jane Monreal for the 4 o'clock show.